Okay. All right, for the last time from me, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is now 6 p.m. on the dot, and this is the special meeting of the Kaneland Board of Education. We would like to inform all board member attendees that this meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time by our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of the meeting's conclusion. Mr. McCauley, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mr. Kleisner.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Dr. Lawler.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Did you? I think you called Mr. McCauley twice and not Mr. Mankivsky.
Oh.
Mr. Mankivsky. Mr. McCauley.
Here.
All right, with 7 members present, we have a quorum. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye. 7-0, the agenda is approved. We'll move on to board/superintendent salutes.
At this time, I'd like to call Mr. Rollman to the podium, and he'll be presenting some of our students that are involved in activities.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come back and talk about non-athletic student engagement at our high school, which is extremely high. I do want to highlight a couple of things. Because of the generosity of our community, the school board, and our leadership, we have held several home track meets this year, and including the Jill Holmes Invitational, and just this past Saturday, the 52nd running of the Peterson Prep Invitational with 20 teams. So it was an outstanding success. Our team actually came out on top as well, which makes it even sweeter. But we got lots and lots of compliments about our track facility, so I just wanted to share that with you. And before I get out of the sports world, I do have a special guest, Mr. Jonathan Paris, and his parents are here. And he participates in athletics outside of what we're able to offer, and I wanted to invite him to come up and share with you his outstanding contributions and his outstanding accomplishments this year. Jonathan? You're welcome.
So hi, I'm John Paris, and I am a junior. I play wheelchair basketball for the Lincoln Way Special Recreation Association Hawks. I have been playing since I was 8 years old and started playing on the varsity team in 8th grade. This season we worked hard and accomplished a lot. We had a record of 26-6 to end the season, playing teams from all over the country. We were Midwest Conference champions, and to end the season, we were ranked as the #1 team in the nation, unfortunately falling short and finishing 4th at nationals. We also won the IHSA state championship. This was our 3rd championship in 4 years, winning back-to-back in my 8th grade and freshman year. We worked hard all summer and next season to hopefully win the state championship again in my senior year.
Let's start with some of our activity groups. We're going to start with ACES. Mrs. Decker, our sponsor and advisor, is not able to be here tonight, but the ACES competition specifically refers to academic competitions for excellence, and they are contests designed to challenge our students beyond the standard classroom curriculum. They test students' proficiency in various academic subjects at a higher level than typical classroom or standardized testing. ACE competitions are often held between schools and involve teams competing in subject-specific areas like math, science, social studies, and English. Our ACES team had a great year. They placed first at their regionals and third at their sectionals. Although the team did not qualify for state as a team this year, we did have two individuals. Kenneth Gayo placed first in biology, and AJ Faraga placed first in physics and third in computer science. That was at the sectional level, and then both boys traveled to compete at the state level at Eastern Illinois University in April, where Kenneth placed sixth in biology among all students in the state. So congratulations to our ACES team. Now I'd like to invite Mrs. Larson and the graphic arts students to come forward.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here. We're going to recognize two opportunities, I guess. Our first is Riley. Riley made a submission to the Seed Your Future competition. This is a national competition, and received honorable mention. So this organization works to bridge and bring in students, young people, young adults into building like a relationship with plants and horticulture. So this is just her work. There's just one sheet there to give you an example. And honorable mention is a pretty big deal because this was national, and well, there were only 3 other people above that, so congratulations. Our other group that we have here, we have 3 of 4 students. If you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves.
I'm Cassandra Kramer, I'm a senior. I'm Stacey Layton, I'm a senior.
I'm Michael Glick, I'm a junior.
And then our 4th person is River Mullins, who wasn't able to be here tonight. So these students are advanced graphics students, and they competed in a team-based challenge, which is one of our components for being a quality CTE program. They are given a prompt. They have to work together to decide who's going to do what and the whole product. The prompt included creating a concept and branding package for a cafe called You and Yours, and it's Yay Cafe. So some of the things that they had to do was create a complete branding sheet, which we're in process of doing for our district. They had to create a menu. All of their graphics are completely original. It's their work. It's nothing that's, it's not AI generated, right? Like, it's all original work. And then their concept book, of course, has the whole process in here. They had to do packaging as well, window
Design, storefront.
and the storefront design. So our region has 5 schools, and they came back with the win again. So they brought it home 2nd year in a row, which is pretty awesome. The competition is really tough, and they have several other opportunities throughout the year to do other competitions like that. So you are welcome to take a look at their work. I only have 2 of our portfolios, which I want to mention. These 2 are seniors. Were in the top 3 for Graphics Student of the Year, which is also a very, very high accomplishment. So kudos to you as well.
Mr. Bruno is not here this evening. He said he had spent enough time here 2 weeks ago when he was here as one of our assistant basketball coaches, but Mr. Bruno is another one of our outstanding teachers who helps our students not only in the classroom, but guides them outside the classroom. We do have two students from the Crier Journalism Group that are going to talk to you a little bit about their fantastic year. Carly and Audrey, if you'd come on up.
Okay, hi, I'm Audrey Walker. I'm the editor-in-chief of print and the ads and business executive for the Kaneland Crier, which is Kaneland High School's news magazine.
I'm Carly Feilich, and I'm the Crier social media executive.
We just want to start by thanking Kaneland High School administrators, district administration, and the school board members for their constant support of the Crier. As a student-run program, it's really nice and always helpful to have a group of administrators and board members who are willing to accept student interview requests and then have transparent conversations with us. It makes it a lot easier.
The Crier is a program where we as students learn over the course of our time in the class how to become leaders in various ways. We conduct interviews, write stories, take pictures, design pages, run a website, handle finances, manage social media accounts, and conduct broadcasts and podcasts. We compete in local, regional, state, and even national contests. We work every day in a collaborative environment where we each have our own unique roles and everyone contributes in different ways to the larger goals of the program.
So last year we won our first ever sectional championship, and we repeated that same accomplishment this year. We just sent 10 staff members to the state finals in Bloomington this past weekend, and we'd like to congratulate Olivia Cotter, who's a junior, Nate Sand, who's a senior, and Sophie Thill, who's over there, for finishing as some of the top review writers, sports writers, and radio news producers in the state. Unlike most other high school competitions, the journalism state competition isn't divided into enrollment classes, so we're competing against the best student journalists in the entire state from the huge schools with 4,000 kids and stuff. So when we won our sectional this year, we finished ahead of the eventual state champion, Huntley. So as a program, we know we're working at a level that compares with the best in Illinois.
We'd also like to congratulate Audrey Walker for earning a spot on the prestigious all-state journalism team, which means she's viewed by the Illinois Journalism Education Association as one of the top individual journalists in the state. Audrey, her family, and Mr. Bruno will be heading to the All-State Awards Banquet in Springfield on June 7th.
So thank you again to the district, high school, Board of Education, and community as a whole for your support of student journalism. So thank you.
I'd like to also add that Audrey is our third student in 3 years that has been selected to the All-State Journalism team.
I think it might be more.
Maybe more?
It's like maybe 5 years.
Okay, maybe 5, all right. All right, thanks, Mr. Bruno. At this time, I would like to bring up Ms. Giles, who is the advisor of our theater and drama programs, and her students.
So I'm not going to talk a whole lot. I'm going to turn it over to the drama club officers, but thank you so much for giving us time to talk about our season.
Hi, my name is Sydney Flipson. I'm the drama club secretary. This year, our spring musical was Something Rotten. Roughly 1,000 members of our community came out to support us this year, which we really, really appreciate. This show was a love letter to Broadway, and we had so much fun with the hilarious musical references in it. My favorite memory from theater this year was opening night of this show, because I remember being so nervous backstage, but once I got out there and saw how many people came to support us and just felt the feedback, I knew I just had so much fun.
Hi, I'm Sophie Thill. I'm the drama club president. I'm talking about kind of our plays this show season. So we kicked off the show season with Radium Girls, which is a historical drama. It's about the radium dial painters in New Jersey, but it also hits home to Ottawa. And we had a lot of positive feedback and even had some people with ties to the Ottawa dial painters who came and saw the show. So that was kind of cool. And then our black box show was Medea this year. I had the opportunity to stage manage that one. So I got to work with the younger students on this really tough Greek tragedy, but they did a really good job and it was a lot of fun. So.
Hi, I'm Anna Gatz. I'm the Drama Club treasurer. And so outside of our productions, every year we hold our annual Miscast Cabaret, where we have students come in and perform roles they wouldn't usually be cast in. Usually it's like gender-bent stuff. This year we raised $500, and it all goes back into the program to help subsidize costs associated with being in productions. It's also just a lot of fun to see what students come up with and how they're creative and put on different shows. And my favorite part about being in theater and this program specifically is the community we build. You know, you never get to do the same show with the same cast, so it's really fun to just meet new people, and it's across all 4 grade levels. So that's something kind of unique about like being in a high school theater program, is just being able to get to know everyone.
My name is Ava Selcher. I'm the Vice President of Drama Club. And another super awesome opportunity we had this year was being able to attend the Illinois High School Theater Association's Theater Fest, which was held at U of I. It was a couple-day-long event. We were able to attend lots of workshops hosted by professionals and see lots of musicals and plays hosted by other schools who came to perform them. So it was basically just a lot of exposure to the different theater programs that are out there. And then I know some of my friends were also able to hold their college pre-screens, which is basically just auditions to be a theater major. So along with it being a super fun experience, I know a lot of us were able to get those real world connections and that real world experience.
Mr. Brock Feast, who serves as our Winter Assistant Athletic Director, is also our Scholastic Bowl Director. Brock, we'll turn it over.
Hello. Unfortunately, you just get me. Most of my students are also involved in a spring sport or activity, and there's always a lot going on. So with that, thank you to your support of all the activities. We have a school that allows kids to do a lot of different stuff, and I think that's something that's really unique and important about what we're offering at Kaneland. But tonight I am representing Scholastic Bowl. If you're not familiar with that, it's a team-based trivia-style competition where students compete against other schools in a wide range of topics. Students answer questions from everything like our traditional subjects like math and science, but pop culture, politics, movies, music, you name it, I have heard it come up in a Scholastic Bowl question. The kids are all way smarter than I am, and I'm always so amazed by the questions that they are able to just instantly know. So we had a really great season this year. I'm assisted by an awesome assistant coach, Miss Jenny Heyman, who is a teacher at the high school. Could not do this without her. Both the JV and the varsity team placed 3rd in our Interstate 8 conference this year, which was kind of exciting for both teams to place at the same event. We held our own tournament this year at Kaneland High School that was the largest it's been in a while, with 20 teams in attendance, and our varsity team did get 2nd overall at that tournament, so that was a highlight of our season as well. Lastly, we got the chance to host the IHSA Regional for Scholastic Bowl, and while unfortunately that was the end of our season this year, was very impressed with the students' teamwork and hard work all the way to the end. So thank you for your support of all these activities and letting us share a little bit about that tonight.
And now I would like to bring up Mr. Gudovic and the students from DECA.
Well, hi everybody. I would like to just say thank you to our admins and also board for showing support to our club, DECA, that we restart the club after the COVID that almost like ceased to exist in our school and didn't run for 2 years. We were able to bring this club back to its feet. So I just wanted to say thank you for your support. And I won't be here the next school year with the district due to unforeseen circumstances. However, I implore you to continue supporting this wonderful club that helps so many of our students in our community. I will turn now to our students. If you don't mind, just introduce yourself and then some of you will give a speech.
So I'm Carly. Hi again. I'm Kaneland's DECA president.
I'm Audrey again. I'm Kaneland's DECA vice president.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm going to be vice president next year.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm going to be head of engagement chair next year.
I'm Taverly. I'm the secretary right now, but I'm going to be president next year. I'm Kayla, and I'm going to be the fundraising chair next year. I'm Grace, and I'm going to be vice president of written events next year.
All right. So, for those of you who may not be familiar with DECA, we'd like to talk a little bit about our club and what we do. So DECA is focused on helping high school students develop business, communication, and professional skills. Students compete either individually or with a partner in a variety of categories such as entrepreneurship, hospitality, marketing, finance, and more.
So at competitions, participants are given a real-world case study and must present their solution to a judge in a 10 to 15-minute presentation. In addition to the case study, students also take an exam that focuses on business concepts specific to their chosen category.
During COVID, DECA was not active at Kaneland High School. However, in 2022, thanks to a student and our current advisor, Mr. Gudovich, the club was restarted. That first year, we only had 9 members, and just 2 years later, our club has grown to 70 members, the largest number in the 25-year history of DECA at Kaneland since it originally began in 1999. Before we restarted the club, the highest membership ever recorded was only 30 students.
Yeah, so last year, Kaneland DECA also received the award for the largest chapter growth in Illinois, with an increase of over 400% in membership. This year, in January, we competed at sectionals and qualified 18 students for state, the most we've ever brought. Carly and I placed 3rd in our category at sectionals, achieving the highest placement for Kaneland.
At the state competition in February, we continued our success by placing in the top 7 out of over 60 teams, a huge accomplishment for both us and for Kaneland DECA. In addition, Audrey also received the 2nd highest test score out of over 120 students on her test.
Beyond competitions, DECA has opened doors for many Kaneland alumni. For example, Nick Johnson, a former DECA member, credits his DECA experience for helping him gain admission to Loyola University. And many of our former members have also shared the skills that they developed through DECA have helped them stand out in college applications and interviews. And I can just personally say that as I'm doing like college interviews and such, DECA has definitely helped me become a more fluid speaker and more confident.
So we want to thank the district and the high school for supporting DECA's growth, and we're really proud of what we achieved this year, and we're super excited for next year's team to see what we can do for the future of DECA. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I just want to thank Dr. Rollwing and the Board of Education for giving us this opportunity. Every year we get an opportunity 3 times a year to come up and talk about and highlight the athletic seasons, but there's so much more going on at Kaneland High School that involves so many of our students, and obviously you can see even within those groups, they get involved in more than one thing, and many of these students are involved in both athletics and other extracurricular activities. So again, we thank you. We've got more than 40 active clubs running at the high school this year. And when I return in June, I'll have some numbers for you as percentage. We'll be calculating that. I'll give you an idea of exactly what kind of percentage we're talking about of our students that are actually participating in at least one extracurricular. So we look forward to that. But again, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to the podium for the next salute. So I would like to salute Board President Adam Gonzalez for his years of service to the Kaneland community. During his time on the Board of Education, Kaneland built a much-needed new track, hired a new superintendent, which I appreciate, and passed a $140 million referendum. Additionally, he worked to give the community an increased voice in the schools and has helped focus the work of the administration on student outcomes. Adam has been a positive voice for the Kaneland community, and Kaneland is a better place as a result of your work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any board members?
I would just like to thank Adam one more time. Adam, under your leadership, we have accomplished so much, and I can honestly say you are the best president I've had the pleasure to work with, and so it is a great loss that you're leaving, but we're very grateful for what you've done, so thank you.
I just need to add, you've provided steady leadership and real leadership, not just talking about things, but real leadership, and moved the district forward. The district is a far better place because of the leadership that you provided and the time and effort you invested not only into the referendum, but to the whole concept of excellence and providing a better student experience throughout the district, no matter what school you're at. We are going to be far poorer as a board without your leadership. Please know that it's appreciated. We value it, and I hope whoever comes next can provide just a modicum of the leadership that you provided. It'll be difficult for the next person.
And I just want to add, thank you, Sam, for sharing him with us, because he has. He's given a lot of his time to all of us, to conversations, to the community, to admin, to our teachers. There's been so many stories. Don't start crying, because I'm going to start crying. So I just appreciate the love and the strength that you've been for him, too, because there's been a lot you've gone through. There's a lot of hard decisions you've had to make. There's a lot of hard conversations you've had. There's a lot of decisions just in general. And you have stood strong, just like Bob and Dr. Lawler said. You stood strong for our board. You stood strong for our community. And so thank you. Thank you for everything. And I thank you to your family, too, and your girls for all that they've given.
Thank you. I just want to say that I'm blessed by the strong friendship I built with you over the past 2 years. I've witnessed a man who leads with integrity, confidence, and the fear of God. I want to thank you for sacrificing time away from your family for the countless hours behind the scenes, fighting not just for a school district, but the community as a whole. I know you will be greatly missed, but I know your fight for our district does not end here, and I wish you the best of luck with your next endeavor. Thank you. Thank you for all you did.
Y'all are gonna make me cry. Said I wasn't gonna cry.
Let me tip you over there. Everyone stole my thunder, so thanks for that. I have to echo what everybody else has said. And what I truly admire about you is it wasn't about what you said. It was your actions, right? It was how you comport yourself. You can hear all sides. You're level-headed. A fantastic leader, but a servant leader. And that's what I saw more than anything. You got involved with a lot. I know Sam can attest to that. And probably more than you should have at times, right? Instead of delegating, you took it on. You took the responsibility. And I really look up to you. You taught me a lot. And the truth is, I wouldn't be on this board if it wasn't for you. Talking to you when I decided I wanted to run, or I was thinking about it, you gave me the confidence and courage, and maybe undersold how much work it could be, maybe a little bit. But you gave me the confidence to come and do this and to be a part of the community on a whole different level, and to be a servant, not only within my household, but to the community as a whole, and to all the students, and not just my child or my children in the district. And you set that precedent, and I'm really, really grateful to you for pointing me in this direction and giving me the courage and strength to be here. And I've learned so much for you, and just getting further involved in this. And I really appreciate all that you do, and I appreciate our friendship. And thank you for being you.
Thank you.
I'll go last, I guess. Thank you for everything. You're the first person I talked to when I was seeking to join the board, and when I was I was never scared, but when people are older than me, you're the only first person to treat me like a true peer, and that meant a lot to me from day one to now. And you're just so inviting and so uplifting to me to have a courageous voice in anything I believe in, because I see you and you stand up for everything you know. And although we might not have the same opinion on everything, I'll always stand for what I believe, because I've seen you do it, and you're a real leader in that way. So thank you very much for everything you've done.
Thank you all very much.
I still think you're coming back.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you. I have words as well, but I'll wait to the appropriate time on the agenda. Okay, we'll move forward to the public comment section of the meeting. And at this time, it looks like looks like the first person decided not to, so we have one signed up right now. So I'll invite Mr. Perry Elliott to come to the podium.
Here's not what they used to be. Either is mine. My name's Perry Elliott. I'm from Sugar Grove. I've come before you a couple of times regarding the TIF issues. 3 minutes goes fast, so I'm going to have to go fast too. First, I would like to say you're considering a lawsuit, which I totally support, but I think it's about doing the right thing, not just about the dollars, okay? Number one, the TIF is an ineligible TIF. I think you've all seen the opinion about it. If you read the TIF statutes, as I have several times, it's unfounded. Water does run downhill, but it does not necessarily create flooding. There's been no documentation or proof of any of this. So I look at it as a $481 million scam, okay? What the school gets out of this is potentially, if everything goes smoothly, maybe $26,470,000 over 23 years. Adjusted for inflation, it's going to come to about $13.5 million if it goes the way it's supposed to. The school district reimbursement is eye candy. It's only based on new students out of the TIF district, and I believe it's on net new students. All right, so that $95 million, you may get some of it, you may not. That's up in the air. The only thing you're guaranteed, if you're guaranteed any, is the first number I told you about. As I said, I believe this whole thing has been a predetermined scam all the way through. All that made it qualified was the fact you had 4 trustees that voted for it. Doesn't mean it was right, doesn't mean it was justified. You had 4 people that voted for it, and the village president, Jen Conan. Since then, you've seen some of her shenanigans. You know that she filed suit against you for an improper meeting to get intel on what you were discussing as far as your strategy on the TIF. I don't know how she knew the meeting happened, but she did. Recently, she pushed a meeting to hold back any land cash value and impact fees so that you couldn't use it to fight against the city on this. If you look at the structure of this whole deal, it's kind of upside down, but the village, along with Crown and EEI, had to agree to band together to fight against any lawsuits or any complaints against the TIF, which to me is kind of ridiculous. Again, I think it's about doing the right thing. If you believe this is not right, then you have an obligation to the village of Sugar Grove, as well as your student body, as well as all the student bodies that you guys cover, to stand up and say this is wrong. All right, and as the school district, you have the most influence on being able to be successful at this. It may cost a couple of $100,000. I understand there's some concern over the cost. It's nothing compared to what the outcome may be.
Mr. Elliott, your time
May I
is
have
up.
30 extra seconds?
No, sir, we hold to 3 minutes.
Can't do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's the last person signed up. I'd like to remind everyone that this is the special, this is a special meeting for tonight, so there will be multiple options later in the meeting to discuss, or to come for public comment if you want to discuss topics on the agenda. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Once?
I just want to know that the outside doors are locked. So anybody trying to come from the big parking lot cannot get in.
Thank you. Okay, hearing no further public comment, I will turn it over to Dr. Rowling for the announcements of the election results.
So the detailed election results are in the board packet. The final results are that Aaron Lawler, Jennifer Simmons, and Scott Stelkup will be serving 4-year terms on the Board of Education. I'd like to call Mr. Stelkup to the podium to take his oath of office. Got your cheat sheet. Okay, so raise your hand. I, Scott Stelkup,
I, Scott Stalkup,
do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Member of Board of Education of Kaneland School District Number 302.
do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Member of the Board of Education of Kaneland School District 302 in accordance with the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution, go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
The Constitution of the State of Illinois and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of my ability.
I further swear that
I further swear that
I shall respect taxpayer interest by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets.
I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as the faithful protector of the school district's assets.
I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can only be made by a majority vote at a public board meeting.
I shall recognize that the board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at a public board meeting.
I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
As a part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district.
As part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district.
I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals and define outcomes, and set the course for Kaneland School District Number 302.
I shall foster the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Kaneland School District 302.
I shall assist in establishing a structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework.
I shall assist in establishing a structure and environmental design to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework.
I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law.
I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law.
I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community schools to advance the vision for Kaneland School District 302.
I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of the students and our community schools to advance the vision for Kaneland School District.
And I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district toward fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district toward fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, before we adjourn, I'm going to take a couple minutes. This will be the last time you'll have to hear me speak, so it should be nice. I feel like just yesterday I was taking that oath, and I came in at a tumultuous time. We were in the heart of COVID, and my vision, my goals were very different from what they are today. I feel like I've grown a lot through this time, learned a lot, met so many amazing people, and I'm just grateful for the time I had to serve the community and to serve the students and to serve you guys. So just a few thank yous. First of all, I want to thank administration, Kurt Rowling, Dr. Layden, Chris Adkins, Dr. Bogan, for your leadership, for all that you've done for the district, for the mentorship in a lot of ways, for the partnership, and for giving me that assurance as I leave that the district is on a good path in our strive for greatness. So I want to thank you guys for all that you do for the district and what you have done for me. KA and Speak, I've been through 2 negotiations. I was through a Speak negotiation, KA negotiation. Leadership, I can't say enough about them. They've been amazing. Advocates for their members, but also keeping the focus on the kids. Not just leadership, but every member, and not only members of the unions, but all the teachers. Every teacher I've met has been nothing short of amazing, and having that focus on what's best for the community and the district. And words can't express my gratitude towards that, in that my kids are going to go through this, and I sleep well at night knowing that we have good people in the classrooms, because you guys are the ones that have the impact on those kids' lives. And so I want to thank you for doing what you do. I want to thank the community for their engagement. I want to thank them for coming up and telling us, their opinions, letting us know what's, even if it's, you go home sometimes at night, and I'm not going to lie, you go home a little upset, a little beat up, but at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. And speaking up is your right and what should be the expectation. So I also want to thank the community for showing up to vote this last election, because through that passing of the referendum, we put Kaneland in a much greater position in that goal for striving for greatness. And so I want to thank you for showing up and supporting your kids, your community, and this district. I want to thank you guys, each and every one of you. I'm not going to go through individually, but I've spoken with you guys individually, and you know my gratitude towards you. My only regret through this is that OMA does not allow us to get together as a group and just really get to know each other and spend time to discuss things beyond the school board, because each of you through my time is an amazing person, and I've learned so much from each and every one of you, and I appreciate you taking the time and the effort to come out here every other Monday. I'm not going to cry. Putting in the time, the effort, dealing with the tough issues and dealing with the decisions. A lot of times we have to deal with decisions that were made a long time ago, but we sit up here and we take it like we should. So I want to thank you for your support, for being there for me, for always having my back. Even if we don't see eye to eye, I feel like we're a good team. We're a strong team, and I leave today happy that we have such a strong board in place and that Kaneland is going to move in the right direction. So thank you guys. Next up is my family. My mom, who was, been there for me throughout this. Board member Mankivsky, who encouraged me to join the board initially when I never thought in a million years I'd be in this role, but being a mentor, being a strong voice, being a level head, and just being an inspiration. I'm not good at telling them face to face, but just so you know, you'll always have a special place in my heart. Most importantly, stand up. Stand up, Sam. Now I'm gonna cry. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all her support through everything I've done, for the countless late night board meetings, through the interviews, through the negotiations, week after week after week. You know, those late night calls, the random pop-ins in the shop when you had to take over at the counter because I was having discussions. Just everything you do, you're my rock. Take care of the kids, getting them ready for bed, me, you know, having dinner ready for me. I couldn't, I'm so blessed. I couldn't ask for a better partner. So thank you for being my other half and being my strength. So I love you. So with that being said, at this time, the board will adjourn under the Latin term sine die, which is a Latin term for without a day. So at 6:45 p.m., I move that the Kaneland Board of Education adjourn sine die.
Second.
Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry, a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, guys.
Okay, we're going to call the special Kaneland Board of Education meeting to order at 6:47 p.m. Roll call.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Here.
Mr. Kleisner.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Dr. Lawler.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons. Here. Mr. Stalkup.
Here.
With 7 members present, we have a quorum. Motion, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to elect me as President Pro Tem to lead the board in electing the next president.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons. Aye. Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Stalkup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. At this time, I would call for, we're going to go through a series of elections. We'll start with the board president and then go through the vice president, secretary, and just so you know, generally the board is elected Ms. Orfel as secretary and treasurer, and generally the board has elected Dr. Morgan as treasurer. So, but the board can do whatever they'd like. So at this time, I would accept a nomination for the board president.
I nominate Bob Mankowski for president.
I second that.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons. Aye. Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Stalkup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations, Board President Mankivsky. So now we got to do a little seat shuffling here. So, Mr. Mankivsky, if you'd like to come down. You're stuck sitting next to me.
Move up. Oh, lucky me. Okay, at this time, I will entertain nomination for the office of Board Vice President.
I would like to nominate Aaron McCauley.
I would second that nomination.
I'll second.
Second. And a roll call, please.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Stalkup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
And the motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Congratulations to the board president, vice president. I will entertain nominations for the office of board secretary.
I will nominate Julie Orfel.
Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, having been nominated and second, nominated by Aaron Lawler. Sorry,
You're new to this. You're good.
I'm new.
It's okay. You got the whole meeting
Seconded
to
by
be.
Scott Stalscott. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Stalkup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Next, I will entertain nomination. Well, motion carries 7-0. Congratulations, Board Secretary, Ms. Orfel. Next, I will entertain nominations for the office of treasurer.
I nominate Dr. Jackie Bogan.
I second it.
Okay, nominated by Mr. Kleisner, seconded by Ms. Simmons. And a roll call, please.
Dr. Lawler.
Yes. Aye.
Mr. Stalkup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 7-0. Congratulations, Board Treasurer Bogan. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of regular board meeting dates and committee structure. You'll have that in front of you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the board dates and committee structure and dates for the 2025-2026 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Simmons, seconded by, Mr. Kleisner?
I'll take it.
Just making sure. And a roll call, please.
Mr. Stalkup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The board dates and committee meeting dates are approved. And then I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the special meeting at 6:53 PM.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are then adjourned. Special meeting is adjourned.
How many meetings can you have in one day?
We'll have more.
Thank you. Okay, got it. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is now 6:53 PM. This is the regular meeting of the Kaneland Board of Education. We would like to inform all board meeting attendees this board meeting is being live streamed and archived for access at any time by our community members on the internet within 24 to 48 hours of this meeting's conclusion. Mr. McCauley, the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and roll call, quorum, please.
Mr. Mankowski.
Here.
Mr. Kleisner.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Dr. Lawler.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye. Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Mr. Stalkup.
Here.
All right, with 7 members present, we have a quorum. Is there anything the board would like to move from consent to new business? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Mr. McCauley, seconded by Mr. Kleisner. And a roll call, please.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Stalkup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. The agenda is approved. Now it's time for board and superintendent salutes. I will turn it over to Dr. Rowland.
We have no additional salutes. I think we did a pretty good job of that in the first meeting. So,
Dr. Bogan,
None this evening.
board members?
Just a couple things. Thank you, Mr. Mankivsky and Mr. McCauley, for stepping up and taking the leadership role, and welcome Mr. Stalkup to our board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawler.
I'd like to do a salute.
Okay.
I'd like to thank Adam for his service. I've been up at the podium, I've stopped and talked to him, as well as other board members, just the open door policy, the willingness to listen, and the leadership over the last several years speaks volumes to his character.
Yeah, I'll take a minute to talk about the track event that happened on Saturday. Thank you for Mr. Rollman for everything that happened. I went and it was an amazing event. The track program, the cross country program at Kaneland, I don't think is talked about enough. They're so unbelievably competitive. I don't want to pull the underdog card because they're not underdogs, they're the top dogs. But the past 3 Peterson meets, I was looking at it, I think Kaneland's the second smallest school out of those 20. Have West Aurora, East Aurora, some of the top 10 biggest schools in the state, and they beat them. They beat them hard. And people are scared to come to Maple Park to run track. And with this new track that we built, it's amazing. And having the 1975 championship team and seeing from that to freshman Carson Kaiser just beat the doors off everyone in the 2-mile race. It was amazing to see how long of a history, and just to thank you to the Drendel family for the long-lasting legacy they've had on the program. And it's amazing. No one wants to see us in any match or meet, and I'm proud. I was definitely proud to be a Knight on Saturday. It was amazing. So just like to say thank you.
Any other board members? All right. The board appreciates everyone in attendance this evening and invites you to stay as we move to the new business part of the meeting. We understand that not everyone is able to stay for the entire meeting. We wanted to make sure that you know this is an open meeting and you are able to come and go as you need, and we look forward to seeing you at future meetings. Tonight's consent agenda that contains the following information. Number 1, approval of accounts payable and payroll for April 2025. Number 2, approval of the minutes of the April 14th, 2025 regular meeting. Number 3, approval of personnel. Number 4, approval of the Fox Valley Career Center joint agreement. Number 5, approval of the Mid-Valley classroom use. Number 6, approval of the activity van purchase. Number 7, third quarter budget report and informational items, the student suspension data report, and Freedom of Information Act report. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent items listed.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCauley, seconded by Ms. Simmons. And a roll call, please.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Stalkup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The consent agenda is approved. Next, we will move to the public comment section. We use the public comment section as an opportunity to listen to our stakeholders. The board does not debate or engage in conversation during this time. I would like to remind everyone to state your name and village of residence for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Public comment is a maximum of 30 minutes, with 20 minutes total length of time for any one subject. Those who speak are asked to maintain a tone of courtesy and civility. And the list is
Still being filled out.
still being completed. Okay. First up this evening, we have Katie Wood.
Hi, good evening. I'm Katie Wood. I'm from Sugar Grove, Illinois. And I first want to recognize the administration for their tremendous effort in passing the referendum, and also want to thank the board and community for supporting a plan that will strengthen student learning and facilities. As an advocate for the referendum, I hope it's clear how deeply I care about the district's financial health and student outcomes. I come here tonight to strongly urge you to reconsider litigating the Sugar Grove TIF. I want to be clear that I have no direct stake in the Crown development. I do not live directly near the development. I have no personal or professional ties to Crown or the officials of Sugar Grove, and I'm philosophically neutral about TIFs. I'm here tonight solely as a parent and taxpayer who believes moving forward with litigation would be unwise, unnecessary, and unlikely to succeed. It's unwise because litigation is expensive and risky. Earlier this year, you approved a budget reduction plan that eliminated over 31 full-time positions. And tonight, after looking at the board packet, it appears more cuts are being made to support staff. Even after that, a $3 million deficit remains. Adding costly, unanticipated litigation only adds to this deficit. In the very likely chance the lawsuit fails, where will the money come from? We have already lost teachers, librarians, counselors, and more. So I want to know which staff or programs specifically will be cut next. It's not a stretch to see how this would harm student learning. You've referenced community support and fundraising for litigation, and with all due respect, crowdfunding hundreds of thousands of dollars is neither a viable nor a serious proposal. Litigation is also unnecessary because TIFs do not take existing money away from the district. Much of the push to sue hinges on speculation that the land would develop without a TIF. But that's far from certain, especially given local resistance to development. This is not a risk you should gamble 6 figures on, and it's not something you have to do. And finally, this litigation has little chance of success. Municipalities are given broad authority to create TIFs, and courts rarely overturn them. Winfield is a prime example. After districts 34 and 94 spent 3 years and $2 million taxpayer dollars to challenge a TIF, the court upheld the TIF in its entirety. So why would we expect a different outcome here? If you lose, the district could also risk the tuition payment agreement you've already secured through the IGA, a critical protection for student costs. Much like your previous legal counsel advised, I believe negotiation is the wiser path forward. Litigation would be financially reckless and ultimately harm students and taxpayers. I would like to understand how the board is weighing this risk and what plans are in place to mitigate the potential fallout if the litigation is unsuccessful. This is a decision that will have lasting impacts on the community, and its consequences will fall squarely on your shoulders. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jaden Shadow.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to congratulate everyone who won seats on the board and everyone that participated in the election, and also congratulate the district on the big referendum win. But I'm here once again to urge the board to move forward with the litigation against the Village of Sugar Grove's TIF on the Crown property. We all know that the Crown property was never even eligible for a TIF. The village jumped from consultant to consultant until they finally found SB Friedman, a firm willing to tell them what they wanted to hear. SB Friedman based their eligibility argument on the claim that runoff from the Crown property contributes to downstream flooding. Their source for this? Asking engineering enterprises if water runs downhill. And obviously the answer to that is yes. That's hardly evidence. There were no proper studies, no hydrologic modeling, and no proof whatsoever. One of the loudest proponents of the TIF, lame duck trustee Jamie White, even admitted that the TIF would be used to remediate downstream flooding, specifically through detention basins. But again, without any studies, how do you know what you're remediating, or how much runoff needs to be contained? You can't fix a problem you never actually measured. Beyond that, the but-for test, the very heart of TIF eligibility, has been blatantly violated. The rule is simple: but for the TIF, the property would not develop. Yet when people questioned President Conan about the land uses on the property, she openly stated that because the Crown property is at the intersection of 47 and 88, it's going to develop eventually. Her own words disqualify the project from TIF use under Illinois state law. Sugar Grove's officials have played games with you, the other taxing bodies, and the public. There are many conflicting numbers in the reports, and it's impossible to know what to believe. And frankly, why should anybody believe the village of Sugar Grove at this point? It's unfortunate that a new village president and new board now have to clean up this mess, but at this point, it's clear. Litigation is a necessary step to protect the district's interests, the taxpayers' money, and the integrity of the process. And who knows, perhaps litigation from your end might actually help the new village leadership clean up the mess. I personally think so. The voters have spoken loud and clear at the ballot box. They voted to oust the officials who championed the Crown TIF and overwhelmingly voted to reverse the project itself in the referendum. Please move forward with the lawsuit. It's the right thing to do. And I would like to note that the Winfield TIF that was mentioned previously has an entirely different set of TIF qualification parameters, and it appears, when I read the reports, it was actually a legitimate TIF, and I'm happy to forward that to you. And as your lawyer stated at a previous meeting, he'd rather be you guys than the village of Sugar Grove right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Carolyn Anderson.
I always have paper. Here you go. I just want to make sure that you see everything before you sign anything. I'd like to call to your attention just a couple key pieces that are in this document that need to be carefully examined. When you are often wowed with what the total cost is or revenues that could potentially come to the school district for this TIF, we have often referred to that those numbers are heavily inflated. And I think if you read through this document and we look at some of the terms on here, I would highly encourage you to ask for the reference documents in here. For instance, on page 2, it talks about CoStar and real capital analysts, third-party market studies, and data sources. I think it's important to always source that information and make sure that it's actually legitimate, because as we're finding, a lot of information that's being provided by the Village of Sugar Grove is not legitimate. One thing that I think is probably incredibly important for you to see is on page 6. If you could flip to that, it talks about the TIF revenue assumptions and projections. And then it talks about the school tuition payments and library reimbursements. I really hope that in your research and before making decisions, please do a little bit of time and research to know what the definitions of these terms are, because they're critical to how this TIF will actually work. But it does say the developer's TIF revenue projection model assumes a 28% set aside of the incremental property taxes of non-age targeted residential development for reimbursements for school tuition payments and library reimbursements. SB Friedman assumes statutory maximum school district payments of 25% of increment from all TIF-supported housing, or $3.8 million annually on average, amounting to a total of $95.9 million undiscounted over the life of the TIF district. SB Friedman also assumed the statutory maximum library district payment of 2% of increment of TIF support housing. And so it goes on, but and then call attention to the discount rate. I'm not going to go definitely in there, but to see the range of discrepancies that we're talking about, if you look on page 7, figure 5, you can see Crown's projections with the estimated school district payment, including the library's reimbursement of $48.3 million, estimated over 20 years. However, what has been marketed to you by the Village of Sugar Grove is $95.9 million. That's almost a double error, a tremendous discount. And so who are you to believe? And how does it work with $19,000 or so per student of cost when in here it is not senior living, it's age targeted living? You may end up with 1,500 households full of children. Can you afford that with these figures factoring in what the cost will be compared to inflation and what the expected return is?
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
You're welcome.
Time has expired. Next, we have Mr. Perry Elliott.
Thank you. Part two. Just a few numbers, because I'm going by, the numbers aren't set in stone for exactly what they'll be. They're estimates based on S.B. Friedman's assumptions. So what would you get if there weren't a TIF on this project build out? All right, their estimate of the incremental taxes over that 23-year period is $481,681,875. At your current tax body payout of 70%, you would gain through normal distribution through the taxing body, or the county to the taxing bodies, would be $336 million over that period. That's with using their assumptions and their numbers. What you get if it goes as planned right now is about 13 million, and possibly a lot of other problems that go along with this. The other thing that I think you have to consider is Crown still stands to make a lot of money on this project with or without a TIF. Now, maybe you've heard they've already contracted the entire north side to data centers. There's large companies that are buying up tracts of land anywhere near power stations and so on and so forth to build out data centers. They probably could complete the whole project with data centers if they had to, given a change in zoning. But all I'm saying is that the project is potentially a win for them, even if they don't have the TIF. So I would appreciate it if you would file a suit to deny the TIF. It doesn't mean there isn't going to be any money coming your way. It's just going to come through the standard process. And if this TIF is knocked out, there's no reapplication for a TIF by anybody else they'll sell this property to. All right, it's based on a one-factor study, one-factor qualification, which is flooding, which is not true, but that's what they based it on. So they're either going to have to sit on it or build it. And I think with the current rate of growth in data centers and other needs, that there's going to be a demand for this property one way or the other. So you have to consider that. So there's a large difference between what you could get and what you may get. The other difference is the cost is basically been supported by a 58 to 42% vote in Sugar Grove. And there may be public funding for this money too. If you set it up, you tell the people what you want to do, they know what the facts are, there may be access to funds through public donations. So don't be scared by $200,000 or $300,000 quips when people don't even know what it's going to cost. And all TIFs aren't the same, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Yep.
Rick, let's move on. Did you sign up? Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Okay. You may sign it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Probably won't take the full 3 minutes, but I guess I should mention a few things to you folks.
Can you state your name, please?
My name
first?
is Anthony P. Basili.
Thank you.
I live on Green Road. My property touches the Crown property. You should know that about 2.5 years ago, I gave the exact date to the new mayor. I met with Jan Conan and her development people, and I offered to buy that property. I had previously shown plans to turn my farm, which is 126 acres, plus buying another 500 or more, into an equestrian community. I already have a heated barn with horses, and I've been raising horses there for close to 30 years. She did not even want to entertain the idea of me doing that. It was very obvious to me that she had other motives with Crown. Now, I will tell you that I think that you'd make a terrible mistake not to file suit. And what I would do is I would file a fraudulent suit, and I would notify the Attorney General's office. I will tell you, I did something very similar myself in New York. 20 years ago, I sued a bank under the Federal RICO Act, and I won. Don't be afraid to take anything on. 90% of the TIFs backfire. I have right now developments in Michigan I'm building. I got one that I'm going to be starting. It's a big apartment complex with retail. I didn't even know this. The state of Michigan contacted me and they want to give me a TIF because the property, which I already own, is a brownfield. And I said, I'm building the project anyway. They said, why not take the money? It's from the state. So I probably will take the money. But I also have a philosophy, because I've developed a number of properties around the country. If a project can't stand on its own, it shouldn't be done. You shouldn't burden people with TIFs. And I did look at some of the information, and I can tell you, I'm a CPA by training, an ex-partner of a big firm. Crown is making a massive amount of money. They don't need to do that. And don't be afraid to stand up. And the only other thing I'll say is that if you need anything from me to help you, I will, because it's wrong for the community. You know, one other last thing I'll say is if they build, they're not going to hurt me. I own other farms. We're probably going to move to another farm if they do put warehouses or data centers or whatever. My vision was that equestrian community. I was going to build initially 24 homes on 126 acres, and then if I bought property from Crown, I'd build more. Not doing that when things are, you know, looking the way they are now.
Thank you, Mr. Basili. Thank you. All right, that concludes the public comment section. We will now move on to new business. The first item of new business is discussion of the Crown Community Development Tax Increment Financing in Sugar Grove. Dr. Rowling, if you could provide more information.
Sure, I'd like to invite Mr. Kevin Gordon from Korea Bochek to the podium. He is going to answer questions and provide some information to the board regarding the development of the complaint and possible next steps regarding Crown Community Development TIF.
Thank you. It's good to see you again. Can you hear me? Okay. So since the last time I was here, we've been working on the draft complaint, and we are ready to file at the word of the board or the superintendent. I understand that there's not an action item for that tonight, but as soon as you guys are ready, we can file it within a day or so. It's a challenge to the TIF as an ill-conceived and unnecessary process with detrimental impacts to the school district over the course of its 23-year life, because it diverts tax money meant for the education of the community to support private development. In this way, the TIF Act is an extraordinary remedy. It's an extraordinary means of public welfare for private development. And it, as lots of people have said, it's unnecessary. Now, I know there are lots of considerations that you have to go through. It's not just about the law, it's about the finance, it's about the politics, it's about the community, it's about what do you believe is the right thing to do after you look at that mix of factors. But when you're ready, if you decide to file suit, we have the draft complaint. I've shared it with you in closed session before. I believe there's a closed session tonight as well to answer any last-minute questions you might have of me. Since we last, well, I guess it's been a little bit of time, but things have changed politically since the election at the beginning of April. Just 3 or 4 short weeks ago, we were operating in a different environment. We have at least a majority of the Sugar Grove residents that voted have expressed opposition to the path that their elected officials had set them on. And what, not only did they vote in opposition on a public question, advisory question, we've seen that they've replaced leadership at the village. The new leadership will be taking their offices shortly, is my understanding. And whether or not we've filed suit or not, I think we're always going to be interested in what that new leadership has to say and willing to entertain discussions regarding the future of the TIF, school district action, and what we need to do to protect the assets and the financial status of the school district. And so we may not agree still down the road, and you guys will have to make determinations along the way to stay the course, or whether the village is, if there are any overtures, are adequate to what your needs are.
Okay. To that, may I?
You may.
To that point, Conan has rammed through a bunch of plat changes and essentially a blackmail ordinance that if we file suit, she is going to withhold from the school district certain funds that we are entitled to by statute. Is that your same understanding?
It's my understanding they do intend to withhold funding in some form or fashion. I also know, right, that in a week, that decision, if it is rammed through,
It's already been rammed through.
right,
It already has.
can be undone.
Last minute,
right?
after she lost, after the referendum lost, not by a little, but by a lot, she rammed this through, might as well be in the middle of the night, with just week or two left on her term.
Right.
And one of the ordinances she rammed through was to coerce us as a school board, correct?
Yes.
And
yes, it
that-
would punish you for filing suit.
Right. And withhold funds that we were, as a school district, and our students are entitled to by the TIF statute, correct?
Well, by the TIF statute, yes.
Yeah. So trying to withhold from us what we were entitled to by law.
Right.
What our students were entitled to by law. Is that another grounds to challenge the TIF?
It could.
As it's an amendment
it could
to
be,
the TIF
right.
ordinance?
It could be. Right now, without getting into the specifics of the complaint, we're going to be challenging the TIF from its origination. It's the village board's authority to enact a TIF in the first place.
Good.
And what you're talking about would ultimately, I would think, be something we might amend down the road, because you only get to that issue if we lose on the TIF authorization issue, and there is going to be a TIF, right? So there's a lot to happen between now and the finish line. There is nothing that the village board has done that cannot be undone by a willing village board. And if they listen to their own community, if they listen to the school district community, and they listen to the board should it file suit, there is an opportunity here for the village to right the wrong.
But as they passed that ordinance, essentially, let's call it what it was, blackmail. They're trying to blackmail
Well,
the schools to not file suit by withholding funds that the schools are entitled to by law.
well, I would say punish. Tomato,
Well-
tomato. Yes, there is certainly an effort to coerce or punish the school district to dissuade you from defending what you believe to be right. And if your decision ultimately is to file suit, we're ready to do that for you and to start that process. The thing about litigation, right, is it can be a pox on everybody's house, but at the end of the day, you have to do what you believe is right and defend what you believe your legitimate interests are, and understand that along the way, there is opportunity by willing parties to come to an agreement to end litigation. Just because it's filed doesn't mean we have to wait, we have to go 3 years down the road and see it to its end. If the village is a willing participant and offers you something that you believe is valuable and worthwhile to end your fight, then you can do that. It's not all or nothing at this point. We believe we have a very strong case. We believe that if we went the distance, it would be all or nothing in your favor. So, when you're ready, we can file. We can talk in greater detail about litigation strategy in closed session if you'd like, and answer any questions there, unless you have something that you would like to ask now.
Yeah, Mr. Gorman, I was just going to ask, just to remind us and maybe the public, maybe go through what the next steps look like. So,
certainly. So the next steps are to file the suit in Kane County, at which point we'll get a status date from the court, and nothing will happen for a bit of time just because the village will have an opportunity to file an answer to the lawsuit. Once the answer's filed, everybody kind of knows where they stand as far as legal arguments, and you go into the discovery phase of litigation. Lots of documentation will be asked for and exchanged. Requests for interrogatories will be exchanged, the answering of questions by each side. At some point, you roll into what's called oral discovery, so depositions. I'll tell you, on your end as the plaintiff, right, there is not a lot of documentation necessarily or need for members of the Board of Education to be deposed, because we're challenging the acts of a municipality. They have all the information about why they did what they did and who was responsible for it, right? So they have all of the relevant information to this. Where there will be more of an exchange of information on your end is when the experts become involved. So financial experts, land development experts, experts on TIFs. The battle of the experts will start, and the exchange of expert opinion through deposition mainly. And then you get to motion practice from there, and then ultimately to trial.
So on that, to me, that sounds like a lot of money coming out of our pockets. We have a lot of non-Sugar Grove people that, attend our school districts, that they feel that their money is going to be used for something that is not even their town. So for them, can you explain the importance of it? My thing is, like, we've had multiple public comments have talked about, we are cutting teachers. We have a budget that we need to cut. We have significant things that we need to focus on. And it's very hard for people to say, yes, use my tax money, use my money to go stop something, when maybe could Sugar Grove, the new mayor and all that, their group, can they stop this themselves first? Do we need to give them a little space without us spending our money first, let them get their house clean, and then we can, if we need to step in at that point. Out of respect to all the people that feel like this is, not necessarily maybe their fight, because they are thinking of their own, where they live. Not necessarily. We are all on board. We all understand that we are in this because the money that we get from this impacts our kids. But also, it's hard to tell parents that, yeah, we're at some, people are at 200,000, 300,000. What's the big deal? That's a huge deal on our bottom line.
Sure.
So we need to be able to speak to that. So I don't know if that's something you can shed a little light to those people.
Sure. That's one of the legitimate factors you have to weigh as the Board of Education, right? But what Sugar Grove does with your tax money does impact your students who come from other areas of the school district, right? We don't have a system set up where, tax revenue from Sugar Grove can only be spent on Sugar Grove kids, and tax money from another part of the district is only spent on those kids. You guys, Kaneland Community Unit School District, right, is its own larger community that encompasses lots of municipalities, right? And that money that you get goes towards educating all of your kids, paying for all of your facilities, transporting all of your kids, paying all of your teachers, right? And so when one village decides that they're going to take your money, your tax money, and devote it to a purely Sugar Grove related purpose, that money is no longer available for your larger school district community. And that obviously can present problems.
So in that way, doesn't the TIF ultimately result in all the other communities outside of Sugar Grove having to pick up the slack for the millions in benefits they give to billionaires?
Well, certainly you're going to have to find the shortfall somewhere, right?
And that's borne by all the taxpayers in Auburn,
Right.
Caneville, Virgil. Let's go through Maple Park. Everybody else pays more because Conan and Sugar Grove decided they wanted to give millions to billionaires. Plain and simple.
Right, and that's because you don't tax individual communities. It's a tax that's, goes across all of your communities and is applied equally. So whatever another municipality does definitely impact your school district. Another way that it impacts it is, right, if they decide they're not paying impact fees, right? While those impact fees are only to be devoted to those schools where kids from the development would go, right, so in Sugar Grove, it impacts all of the other kids that go there that may not attend a Sugar Grove school. And certainly you only have one high school building, and so it would impact all the students here at the high school. Or I guess we're at the middle school tonight, but all of the students at the high school, right? So, you do have an interest in making sure that all of the students across your district, all of the families, all of the taxpayers are treated equitably, which isn't a popular word these days, but are treated equitably and not, bearing the brunt of the decisions by one of the municipalities.
Thank you for that explanation. I think it would be maybe that's not the right way, like, be an obvious decision, but Jennifer Conan is not being elected. We have a whole new group coming in and stuff like that. So they're still asking timing of things, us putting money out prior to them actually getting in and making, that's why I'm asking your perspective going.
Sure.
How do we answer those questions?
Sure. Well,
what would be your timing layout?
Well, it depends on what you guys want to do. You guys will initially dictate what you want the timing of filing to be. If you want to give some more time to the village, the new village, to respond. Here's the thing, is this is not an issue that's new, right? Everybody is aware of this. The new village officials over in Sugar Grove, right? They ran on this, is my understanding. They ran in opposition to the TIF. And so this is not new. They should be ready to hit the ground running on this. And even if we were to file suit tomorrow, right, there would be plenty of time for the village to give direction to, what they want to do, right? Nothing in our suit would prevent them from rescinding ordinances, right? Nothing in our suit would make it impossible for them to take their own actions to correct what they believe and what we definitely believe to be an error. So it's really, as far as the amount of time, it's up to you. As far as what happens after we file the suit, how fast does this go, right? Once we file suit, it has to be served on the village. And once it's served on the village will have 30 days to file their answer in this case. So we have some time there. It's not unusual for parties to ask for a little bit more time to get things done. The first case, I don't know what the case management time frame in Kane County is running right now, but typically that first status conference isn't for a few weeks until after the answer is due. So it's not as though we walk into court. If you've been watching legal dramas on TV, stop. Right? It's not like on TV where somebody says, file a lawsuit and get a trial date for next week. Not going to happen. File the lawsuit and we're gonna litigate this within the month. No, that's not the time frame that we're talking about. So, with litigation also, there is a lot of hurry up and wait. There's a lot of spurts of intense activity with times when it doesn't seem like things are progressing as fast as you might want. And each bit of litigation kind of has its own flow and its own cadence, depending on how the parties, decide to prosecute it.
And just to start off, filing is how much? Just to give everybody an idea when you file.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I have not investigated the filing fees in Kane County, but it's typically $350 to file, unless they give local governments a break. Some courts give local governments a break on filing fees. Not sure that necessarily applies when you are the plaintiff, but it's a drop in the bucket, right?
To that point, the thing is, you keep saying time, and like you said, legal things we all hear and we all know, and that sounds like a lot of money to everybody. So that's what I think we're trying to do, to get to the point of helping people to understand. We've heard 100, 200, 300,000. That's not tomorrow. That's not. We're not going to that fee. We're not paying that, I should say, by submitting this. Like this submitting.
You're not
this, like
committed
you said,
to that.
just,
I mean, right? It's not
it's
like
a strategic thing for us to do, but it's not saying, hey, we're gonna.
You're
here's
not,
100,000. We're going to blow that.
You don't have to write somebody a check for $300,000 the day you file the suit, right? Fees are generated as the work progresses, and sometimes, like I said, it will progress very rapidly for a while, and there will be intense times of activity, and then there will be some lulls along the way. It's what happens at the end, right? Whenever that end comes, right? Is how much have you spent on legal fees to get the result that you're now agreeing to or getting, right? And do you feel like that is appropriate and fair? And only you can answer that. I can't answer that for you. I can tell you generally what it costs. The thing about litigation is that you will only control one side of the litigation effort, right? The other side controls the other half of the litigation effort. And in litigation, for every action, there has to be a reaction, right? Whether we initiate something or they initiate something, there's a reaction, not always equal and opposite, but there is a reaction and effort that goes into it. So, can it be less? It certainly could be less. Could it be more? It could certainly be more.
So assuming for a second that we decide to file, hypothetically, what is the timetable we should anticipate? A year, 2 years, 3 years? And what happens during that time frame to the taxes?
Right, so right now, the ordinance is in place, and the increment will be collected and withheld. But right now, the first several years of a TIF, the increment is very, very small, because there's not an increase in the EAV, because not much, moving the dirt around doesn't increase the value of the property year to year. It's when they start erecting structures that it starts to affect the EAV. So you won't notice probably much difference in the first couple of, in the first year or so of the, not getting the increment. As far as the timeline for litigation, if you were to assume going all the way to trial, right? You could be at trial within a couple of years. It could be longer. I would suspect we'll be getting some correspondence right along the way from the village. I think our ethical obligation as attorneys is to try to find a way, once everybody's in the arena, if you will, is to try to find a way to get out, to settle on equitable, agreeable terms. But that's where you guys come in. What is it that you want to see ultimately? And it can, that's a determination that can shift a little bit over time. I think right now we feel good about your case. I think you feel good about your case. There's lots of people in the community that feel good about your case. The question is, do you want to pursue that avenue? There is an draft intergovernmental agreement that you guys have been provided, and to this point, my understanding is that you find that wholly inadequate.
Well, let's go to that. They're surplusing for distribution to local government, and ultimately to our students, 20%. Now, isn't it true, Mr. Gordon, many of the other TIFs around here, I'll call DeKalb. DeKalb TIFs 30% of the revenue, and in some cases 50% of the revenue. So the Sugar Grove TIF is pretty darn stingy when it comes to, funding our students and what our student needs. Because that ultimately is what this is all about. Sugar Grove is cheating our students, and they're giving millions in tax benefits to billionaires, and they're doing it on the backs of our students. And that's wrong. And it's a particularly stingy, isn't it, in terms of from what from other TIFs that you're aware of?
Certainly there are TIFs that have agreed to pay more.
Well, that by their enabling ordinance.
Right.
Have agreed to surplus, well, DeKalb for that matter, 50% of revenues.
The other thing that can happen too is that oftentimes you see, the model is built off of 23 years, a full life of a TIF.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that your TIF has to go for 23 years. So the other place that you've seen villages make concessions to their taxpayers is we're gonna terminate the TIF early. We don't need the full 23 years so that you get the full benefit of the increased EAV sooner rather than later. 23 years, when you're talking about an elementary or a unit district or a high school district even, right? That's more than a generation of students, kindergarten through grade 12, right? It's almost 2 generations of students that you don't get the tax money for. And so, we've also seen where villages would limit in some way the duration of the TIF. So there are some creative ways to get you to a different spot. But right now, it's been radio silence from the village. It's been it's not radio silence. It's been, we'll punish you if you challenge. And I think you're prepared right now. It's from what I've understood to to file that challenge and make it an all or nothing bid. And we can continue to, you know, obviously you evaluate along the way, but walking in, we feel pretty good about this one just because of what, you know, they had to do or not do from an eligibility standpoint. And I thought it was very funny, the young man who spoke earlier about the engineering plans, you know, and the engineering studies to establish that water runs downhill, which happens to be, you know, something that we highlighted in the draft complaint. And so I don't know if you're going to law school, man, to do it. You know, because it's so common sense, right? Under the, and I'll go ahead and talk about this right now. The criteria that was used to make this property eligible, because at the time they did it, it was considered vacant property because it had yet to be, you know, it had just been subdivided, is that it contributes to flooding in the watershed. Well, yeah, right? If you look at a FEMA map, right, everywhere there's a stream, they have a flooding map that shows floodplain, right? And that's the point of a watershed, is that it directs water someplace in the watershed. And, you know, what you didn't see was any indication of actual flooding. Now, if you go and do a little bit of research, right, I believe in the 90s, there was some very significant flooding in the watershed. But you don't see a lot of discussion about substantial or significant flooding in the watershed. And the watershed, it's not like the watershed is right around this property. The watershed extends a considerable distance. It's a large geographic area that we're talking about. So what flooding and where? And at what point can you establish that a drop of water in one part of the watershed is a significant contributor to flooding at the very end, opposite end of the watershed, right? And so the fact that the watershed works is wonderful, you know, as gravity and God intended. But under their theory, right, every piece of property in the watershed is potentially tiffable just because it's in the watershed. So.
Real quick financial question. So, and it was pointed up, it was brought up earlier in previous board meetings as far as how we're going to potentially pay for it. If we go 2-3 years down the road, we do have discovery, we do have all of the expert witnesses and depositions and everything else like that. From our standpoint as a school district, can we crowdsource funding, GoFundMe type things? Can we go back to the community and say, hey, this is what we're looking to do? We want, you know, you guys have supported this, you guys kind of, I mean, it's not like this is something our board or our school district went out and sought to fight, right? It's kind of just fallen into our laps. So is there a problem with us going out and crowdsourcing for funding or anything like that?
So I would say there's no legal reason that we couldn't do that as a district. The question would be, is that something the community would financially support? Like if we did crowdsourcing or some type of thing, is that something that, you know, we would actually draw funds to? And if not, you know, then where in our local budget does that money come from? You know, how do we plan for that?
Yep.
So.
I think we have to start thinking about that, where that could potentially come out of our own personal budget, our district budget, but also other opportunities for fundraisers. Again, there's heard a lot of folks, a lot of people with conversations, a lot of emails, a lot of public comments, you know, supporting the pushback on the TIF. So, you know, I think going back out to the community and asking for that support, that financial support. Again, we're fighting, you know, we're fighting battle for our students. And, you know, it's been brought up and the point is made that this affects the entire community. This affects every town around here that feeds into this school district. So this is not just an isolated incident. We're doing our best to be able to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. And yeah, it's not an easy decision. And again, Adam brought it up earlier. The decisions we have to make up here are definitely not easy ones by any means. And they have implications that touch a lot of different people. So I just want to make sure that if we can go out and explore all avenues of potential revenue generation, that I just want to make sure it's legal, it's above board, we're allowed to do that before we go out and state we're going to do something like that.
So to piggyback on that, that's one of the things that we have decided as a board. We wanted to make sure throughout this entire process, we were above board, we were transparent, the public knew exactly what we were thinking, what we were doing. So, in your opinion, is there anything else we should be communicating to the public to let them know that's vital information that, later on, we don't want anybody to say, like, we didn't know you were going to do that. We want to make sure that they know everything we're doing, right? So, is there anything else we should be maybe communicating out?
Well, I mean, you certainly don't want to be communicating attorney-client privilege
Right.
information.
Yes.
But I think what your public wants to know is that, in C, is that you have considered this from multiple angles. And certainly there will be people who do not agree with your decision. There will be people who don't agree with your decision, but agree that you went through a process, and this wasn't some kind of willy-nilly, spur-of-the-moment, spontaneous decision-making that you did. They want to see that it's considered, that if you're going to do this, you've considered the angles, you've considered the impacts, you've considered all the various factors. And we've talked about some of them. And reasonable minds can differ about the wisdom of filing. But that's really, to be the most transparent, here's my thinking on this. This is why I voted the way I did to authorize or voted against authorizing a lawsuit. And then to communicate along the way, because it can be a bit of a journey, right? Along the way, what's the status of the lawsuit? Where are we? How are things going, right? Because what happens is oftentimes, right, they'll see that a lawsuit was filed, and then they won't hear anything for months and months and months. And that can create some anxiety.
Sure.
And you want to be, you want to make sure that you're on top of what is happening, so you can explain it to the people that voted to put you where you are.
And by the same token, if Sugar Grove decides to rescind the ordinance
I mean,
on a motion, they can do that. That's within their power.
they can do that, right? They can make this process as short
Yeah.
as they want.
The ball's in Sugar Grove's court, essentially. Yeah.
I look forward to answering any specific questions, any other specific questions in closed session, and I'll let you get back to the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. There's no action necessary tonight for the Crown Development TIF in Sugar Grove. The second item of new business is the discussion of the fund balance policy update. Dr. Bogan, if you could provide more information.
Yeah, so in the memo provided, you have a pretty detailed explanation of two different options. As part of previous discussions and the board and the district's ongoing commitment to long-term financial stability and responsible fiscal management, that's sort of how these two options came into being. And so the first option really proposes a very straightforward change to our current fund balance policy. Right now, we have 12.5% or 45 days approximately cash on hand from our operating. After reviewing regionally what's happening in King County, as well as other similar districts, we definitely are on the low end. We're sort of a little bit on an island. Many of our surrounding districts, especially in King County, have a fund balance policy that reflects either anywhere from 25%, which is about 90 days cash on hand, up to about 40% in operating funds, which is equivalent of about 140 days cash on hand. And so the first option, I sort of went right in the middle, right? We would adopt a I would propose adopting a fund balance policy that has that sort of buffer, right? A low end of 25, but not to exceed 40%. Because I think sometimes, right, when you increase that fund balance policy, there's this concern that, we're just socking away cash, right? We're saving for that rainy day. And while I strongly believe we should have some fund balance, right, to protect against some of those unknowns that happen, right? Or an unexpected big project or replacement or things like that, and just long-term financial health, I also think it's important to show a commitment, right, to the community that we're not just continually building fund balance, sort of unchecked over time. And so really, that first option, I think the pros are really, it's very clear, right? It's 25 to 40%. This is the policy. I think it promotes transparency. It does give the district a very clear financial buffer for those unexpected or those rainy day things. I think it also promotes a lot of proactive budgeting. I think the cons, though, and I did list them more in depth here, but really the cons of having that policy, it is restrictive, right? Like, it is going to make decisions much more difficult. I think, when we think about new initiatives or new things that the district would like to take on, going from where we currently are to this, it could restrict, or really there would be a large financial component to future decisions, at least in the short term. That being said, I think that if we implemented option 1, to be perfectly honest, we would fall below that this year. We most likely would fall below it for at least the next 5 years, given our 5-year forecasting that we've done. And so while there's no immediate, legal action or anything that would happen, the board should just know that it potentially would be a finding on our audit, and it would, since it would be a violation of the board's fund balance policy, it would either be a compliance or a governance issue that would be noted. And so we would want to think about, okay, if we know we're going to fall short, what are some of the steps that we're going to do to get us on track? So we would want to plan for knowing that we're going to fall below and we're going to have these shortfalls. What are some proactive measures that we could take? The second option is definitely much more gradual. I don't even recommend in the second option proposing any changes to the fund balance policy, and really not just doing more of what we're doing now, but really trying to look at what those gradual steps can be. I know right now, you guys are reviewing payroll and accounts payable with every board packet. We also do the quarterly budget updates, but is there something more ongoing that we can look at? Internally, right, administratively, I'm monitoring expenditures monthly. I'm looking at those things much more regularly, but is there something more that we could do? The pros of that second approach, I think it's much more flexible, right? I think sometimes that's hard, though, because I think we've been flexible, right? We've had the latitude to make some decisions and to deficit spend, and so now we've really seen a depletion of that fund balance. So I think one of the pros is it's flexible, right? But that's also one of the cons of sort of that option too. I think with the other con is just really not having, a firm structure that we're committed to. I think it would definitely take us longer to reach that goal just because there's much more leeway in it. And so tonight there is no action needed. I really just wanted to present sort of these two options, hear discussion, hear where the board is at so that I can go back and hopefully craft something that we could present for approval at a future meeting at the next meeting.
Help me tell me why I'm wrong. Okay? What would be the downside of staying at 12.5% as our low end of our range, and then incrementally year by year, right, going from 12.5% to 25%, that being our target, and then as we hit that 25%, going from 25% to 40%, right, and making that our target. What if we did this in multiple steps, right, and we voted to update the policy like every 2 years or so, and then continue to stretch from where we're at? Then, in my head, we wouldn't get the audit hit, but we'd be moving in the direction that we're looking at, which is maybe creating a bigger fund balance.
So just so you know, so the district, while it hasn't been an official finding, the district, it has been noted for the last 2 years that we have been below our 12.5%.
Right.
So that's not a bad strategy to
Okay.
do it incrementally. Just know then I'll be coming back regularly with all of you with those updates and policy.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is not, you know, we can definitely do that. There's nothing.
And I don't know
wrong
if
with
that's
that.
the better strategy. So I know how we got here, right? Being a member of the board for a long time now. Historically, the reason we did this was because we had a philosophy that we would try to spend dollars. If we got them, we spent them for students, right? We didn't hoard any cash. But it has put us in a bind now where we continue to fall below our fund balance, and we don't have a rainy day fund really, or not a very strong one. So I see the value of the rainy day fund. I also get nervous about the rainy day fund growing too quickly, and I also get nervous about the idea that we would get those audit hits. I mean, I guess they're not the end of the world, but I don't like them.
And I would say that, you know, the long term, right, having that continual audit finding year over year over year over year, that does or could potentially long term affect, you know, it could lower the district's credit rating. So there are eventual long term effects of that. But I definitely understand the concern. I think that's something that we've looked at, and like I cannot see a foreseeable way that we could grow our fund balance so significantly in that time, just because of right now, when we look at what our budget is and what our spending is, you know, we are spending every dollar that we get in. You know, and I do have an update later, you know, with some things happening at the state that further impacts that. So, I like the idea of.
What's our current percentage?
It's 12.5% is our.
And what are we achieving?
Right now, at end of year, we're falling below that, and so it's usually, I'd have to double check for the exam, but it is below 12.5%.
10 or?
I would want to check the official number before I said something, because I'll be wrong if I say something.
Yeah, I'm in favor, after reading all this, I'm in favor of option 2. I think it's good to keep these numbers implicit, and I have immense faith in the financial stability of the board after we've been rated as one of the best financial records over the past couple of years.
So, and that's something I want to clarify. So we are rated like top. We get awards for financial reporting.
Okay.
Right? So not necessarily like financial stability or health, right? Like we're not sitting on the stats, but how we report our numbers, how accurate we are, how transparent we are, like that this district has always done an amazing job at, and has been highly recognized for its reporting on financial matters.
Yes, so we'll be able to be vigilant over anything that would happen, and we'd be able to see what would happen. And I think it just gives a lot more flexibility, because if we just blindly follow the other districts in the county to 25%, and we're not even at the 12.5% we're at, I didn't even know about the credit rating thing, and that sounds scary going forward. So I would be in favor of option 2.
Okay. And
What
then I
are
guess.
ways, sorry, I was gonna say, what are ways we can grow our
Well,
fund
and
balance?
that would be the thing, like, as a board then, I think at the end of the year and when we go into the budget season, you know, knowing that there might be times when, you know, we're not doing we're not starting a new program, or we're not having an expenditure that maybe we wanted to have, so that we can either end at zero or, you know, on the positive end to grow fund balance. So that's where I think sometimes having that written policy in place with a target is helpful, because it means like that very clearly, okay, here's a roadmap, here's where we're saying we have to get to. So I almost like the idea of, right, maybe it's not 25 to 40, that's too big of a leap at this point, but maybe, okay, it's looking at where are we currently, the policy is currently 12 and a half, right, or 45 days. Do we do it incrementally and say, you know, we're gonna come back with a proposal that increases it, you know, 12 and a half to 20% or,
Yeah.
you know, 45 to 60 days on cash on hand, getting to 60 days to 75 days, so that it's smaller chunks to get there instead of saying, okay, we need to make all the hard decisions right now to get us there.
It's part of the problem also.
No, I was just gonna say, I like the accountability, whatever that number is, whatever we choose, like you said, keep it minimal, but we're not even making the 12% now, and I think we don't put that in consideration, because how many people on this board didn't even know it was supposed to be 12%? So we're not putting that into a factor sometimes in some of the decisions that we're making. I think of the fund balance because I'm on the insurance meeting, so I
Right.
see it monthly.
So, yeah, you
So
see
I
the
know it,
trends,
you know, so I see where it's gone, you know, and it's gone up and down and stuff like that. But for us, we are not being held accountable as a board. I really don't know when the last time, except for being on the insurance committee, that like, it's been like in the forefront for us. So something for you to, like you said, you might be having to come back to us a little bit more often and say, hey, don't forget about this. We've made this commitment. But to Emmett's point, you know, we're not even making 12%, so we need to be accountable at some point here.
Well, and to maybe go along with that, right? I think having, and maybe it's Dr. Bogan, what you're kind of saying, having number targets holds our feet to the fire a little bit better, because as a board, we have continued to like, yeah, I know our fund balance isn't great, but we really want to do this for kids, and it's like a really hard call then when like we're just like, well, we'll break the rule a little bit and get that stuff for kids, right? But at the end of the day, sometimes we should make that harder call and say, well, but that's also why we need a rainy day fund. That is also for kids, right?
And also too, having that little bit of fund balance, right? Like, that's also additional money that you can earn interest on,
Sure.
that you can invest to earn interest on, that does, you know, help with that long-term financial stability. I think that's what I would just ask that the board keep in mind, that really it's a long-term plan. It's not a short-term turnaround for this. This is a long game on this one.
How does it work? I guess what I haven't seen is our maintenance and our replacement budgeting for, we have middle schools that are approaching 20 years old. They're gonna need more work. Now, we're doing some as part of this referendum.
Not in the middle school, we're not.
No, I'm sorry, the
But-
elementaries,
Yeah.
But, you know, at some point, we're gonna have conversations to be had at the middle school with equipment, with different things that are gonna need some, refresh to them or replacement. So how does that budgeting play into this?
Yep, so our operations and maintenance fund is part of our operational funds, right? Currently, there is a budget for that, there is a plan. One of the problems with the plan, though, is that it's been so, like, there's so many overwhelming needs in the district that the plan is constantly shifting and has always been focused on what's the emergency that's popped up, right? So every year there's this plan, it's come to the board for approval. And then even in the, you know, this is my second year now in the district, even in the 2 years that I've been here, it's shifted. What we thought and what was approved initially had to change, right? Because something more emergent came up. And so the list that has been sort of the working document for our operations and maintenance team, for our director of buildings and grounds, that list just continues to grow and grow. And so one of the things that we're addressing through the referendum, the successful referendum, and also our RFP with the construction manager, is that process. So updating our long-term maintenance plan, not just looking at what the preventative maintenance schedule is going to be for the referendum, but what does that 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year outlook like, so that we're constantly addressing the ongoing needs that we know happen. And so we are looking at that. That is part of this. And I don't know, Dr. Rolling, if you want to add, if I missed anything on that.
No, I think that's one of the things that Dr. Bogan's going to be spearheading next year. We have, we didn't really work on that this year because we didn't want to build two plans, right? Two very, very different plans. So now that we know the direction we're going in terms of construction, that's going to help drive that work of what is the replacement maintenance schedule for obviously the new things, but also forward to like harder will in the years to come, we will need to be proactive and look at that. So that process will be happening next year, and we should have a solid, like she said, 5, 10, 15, 20 year
outlook by the end of the year to present to the board.
Is there any statutory requirements for cash on hand that we have to have?
We're at the very lowest end, so like there's not a, there's a recommendation from ISB, but there's not a requirement that you have to have.
It used to be 30 was the minimum, right?
Yeah, I think it's 45 now. We're at the minimum.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we got to 45. Originally, it was like 30 to 60, and I'm like, well, we'll split the difference. We'll make it 45, right?
Yeah. And it
That was
still
long
is a
time ago.
recommendation, but.
Any other comments or questions? There's no action necessary tonight for the fund balance policy update. The third item of new business is the approval of the health insurance renewal. Dr. Bogan, if you could provide more information, please.
Yes, so tonight I did want to present the district's health insurance renewal for the 25-26 school year. This year, the Health Insurance Committee has closely monitored everything from dependent enrollment trends, reviewed our trust fund balance, so KEBTF, we monitor that every meeting as a group, and then I'm also looking at that monthly. But we looked at different renewal projections. We worked closely with the broker, Horton Group, on how to manage both fixed and claim costs this year. And so just to give a short update, last year about this time, the KEBTF had a balance of 1.8 million as of March last year, and this year, March 30, we were at 2.6 million. And so that has been some solid growth over this year. We have seen some consistency in our claims from year to year. We did have a little bit lower claim percentage this year, so that added to it. But based on sort of best practices and what our anticipated annual claims are, we should have a balance in that fund of about 3 to 4 million. And so as a committee, we've worked really hard on what are ways that we can improve our plan, not lower benefits to those who participate in the plan, but also protect it. And so one of the things that we did implement was a formulary change. And so there'll be more information coming out to employees on that, but that would take effect with the new school year, July 1. And then looking at the overall increase, we as a committee are recommending a 3% overall premium increase for the upcoming year. And I think as a group we were really confident in that increase because we had budgeted, if you'll remember in the 5-year financial projections, I used 4% and I felt like that was very aggressive. Like that was a very aggressive number. In years past, we've used anywhere from 5 or 6%, and the district has been sometimes significantly higher than that, has seen premiums significantly higher than that. But that going from that 4 to 3%, it works out to about $44,000 in savings to the districts from the premiums that we would pay. But the committee also worked to maintain the current 4-tier structure to keep the existing multipliers that are used for those different tiers unchanged. And then just ongoing continuing education to all employees about different wellness initiatives to really help manage those healthcare costs, right? So we talk a lot about, when should I go to the ER versus when should I, go to urgent care or wait to call my, primary physician, things like that. But this year, really and truly, especially with the renewal, it was really done through the effort of many, many people on the committee just working together. And so I do want to thank all the members of the health committee. So I'm going to read their names so I don't miss anyone. But first and foremost, Patty Reeder, who's the chief negotiator for KEA and also co-chairs the committee. But also John Ahern, Travis Berth, Barb Bradford, Annie Cantrell, Kelly Gavin, Rebecca Kennedy, Casey Comel, Christy Kukovac, Kathy McGrath, Susan Poshton, Lisa Pistic, and Tiffany Reuter. And then also board member Jennifer Simmons, because she serves as the board liaison and attends all of our meetings, along with representatives from Horton Group. Are there any questions I can answer about
So you said the formulary is gonna change. Is that
Yep.
significant to our members? Is it like a change where that they would have to get
So,
different drugs or?
yeah, so basically what it entails is that people would need a pre-authorization on certain things. So
Okay.
like right now, it's totally open, which even for a school district is like, it's just sort of unheard of
Yeah,
in
so that's
today's
pretty-
day and age.
Yeah.
And in the private sector, it would be much more restricted. So, but it's a very formalized process that Blue Cross Blue Shield does. Any impacted or potentially impacted members, which I think was about 41 potential members, could be impacted. Not necessarily that they would, but they're gonna get a pre-letter from the district. Then they're gonna, prior to the change happening, 60 days prior, they also get a letter from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Prior to them getting that, we say, hey, you might get a letter, please check your mail, it's not spam. And then 30 days prior, they also get it. And then once that formulary change goes into effect, every member, they have the opportunity to get a 90-day fill of whatever medication that they were taking prior to that first pre-authorization to ensure that every member can get their medication and has the appropriate amount of time to go through the additional step with their primary physician.
So, okay, so there's enough safety nets in there for folks to catch up.
Yeah.
And that is, you're right, like, I've seen tons of healthcare plans and that's unheard of, that there's no prior auths, that's crazy.
What other question?
I was gonna say, the only other thing is, thank you to everybody that's on this committee, because they are the ones that are in every school. They represent every school, absolutely every school, so they're fielding all the questions. You know, Barb specifically, she fields a lot of questions, so thankful, but the teachers and, the speak members, stuff like that, they are literally answering these questions, so, they do a lot of work just besides meeting once a month with us, so.
Thanks to you for doing that too. I would not wanna be on that committee.
Second.
Any other discussion? I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Education approves the recommendation from the Health Insurance Committee of a premium increase of 3% for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
All right. And a roll call, please.
Mr. Cook?
Aye.
Mr. McCully?
Aye.
Dr. Lawler?
Aye.
Mr. Stolkup?
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky?
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner?
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The health insurance renewal is approved. The fourth item of new business is a reduction in force for support staff. Dr. Rowling, if you could provide more information.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Dr. Atkins come to the podium, but as he does, and I know he's gonna hit on this, but I wanna clarify, this is not a part of budget reduction action that we took earlier in the year. This is an annual process that we follow based on student need, scheduling, and a variety of other factors. So I just wanna clarify that. I know he's gonna clarify that again.
Yes, thank you for that segue. Just a reminder to the board, our staffing comes in two parts. The first would be for the certified staff and some of the predictor for administrative and non-certified staff, so classified staff, support personnel. That comes in March. This year we had our budget reduction process that came in January 1st. And as Dr. Rowling said, the reduction that's coming to you tonight has nothing to do with the programmatic reduction that occurred in January. Okay, that was all taken care of through natural attrition and was reflected in our minimum staffing plan. This that's coming to you tonight is subject to the individualized education plan process, the IEP process, and timing from the state. So if you're new to this, I'll be happy to explain it again. This is a disconnect between the timing of when we have to conduct this business and the timing of when individualized education plans occur in a school district. So we have to take a snapshot of our staffing allotments in time, predicting what is needed for next year. If we are going to reduce, we have to do that within a certain time frame. But then after that time frame is over, which is right now, begins the staffing season for our students for the following year. So we, every year, every district in Illinois goes through this process of predicting what our enrollments look like, what our staff needs look like for next year. We make decisions, and then after that, we finalize decisions for students in their annual IEP meetings, and that's where we determine whether or not they need program assistance or one-on-one assistance, which are the people that are being affected today. Additionally, we had one unique scenario this year. As the board may recall, we added some paraprofessionals because we had remote services for our certified staff. We had some remote specialists that worked with our students, but because the specialist was remote, we needed a person here on site to sit with and supervise the student while they were getting services from a specialist through the computer virtually. And so I'm not happy to have some of those changes reflected here in the reduction in force tonight for our speak staff, but I am happy to say that we have been very active and proactive in acquiring new staff, and the board has approved so far this year for next year the hiring of 2 social workers, 2 psychologists, with more psychs coming. So that means now we will have live bodies here to do that work, and we will not need the remote services people. So 2 of those FTE tonight are reflective of that, okay? What typically happens, just so that the board knows, is in late April and May and June and even throughout the summer, as we conduct our IEP meetings, students will get staffed, they'll get provided services, they'll get provided one-on-one aides, program aides, that kind of thing. We'll get move-in students, and we always end up adding back those staff that are RIF'd. So that disconnect in timing is unfortunate, but it is the process that we use to staff for the following year. And we can look back historically, we've RIF'd anywhere from 6 to 11 staff over the last 9 years for speak, and each year we've been able to recall almost all of them. And I say almost because the ones we typically don't staff or hire back are people who move, paraprofessionals who are looking for teaching jobs and get them, and the remainder we're able to rehire. So we've been very fortunate to bring back our people each and every time. I also, like with our teachers, want to highlight this is what under the law is called a honorable reduction in force. These people have done nothing wrong. They've done very good jobs for us. We're very pleased with all of our hires for our speak this year. But they were just the most recently hired. So last in, first out, which is unfortunate. It's a highly governed and highly regulated process, both through school code and through the speak contract. I have to thank Sue Sensor, I know she's probably watching somewhere, and Tony Millay, our IEA Uniserve director. We work in close partnership with them. We meet with all of the affected staff. So we had a meeting last week with all 4 of the staff members in the resolution, talk through what their rights and responsibilities are, what to expect, the timing of this process as I've explained it to the board, and then what our history has been in terms of recall. I would want to reinforce for those speak members and for the board, should we get another position that opens up in their job category, it doesn't get posted, we don't interview, we call that person and say, come back please. Okay, so they have that recall right for a whole school year. So that also helps with bringing our people back to our roles with our kids. So it's unfortunate, but at the same time, we do have to reduce 4 of our paraprofessionals this year. They will have recall. Their names are in the resolution as well as the recall order. And we're already starting that process of looking at IEPs. I'm already starting to hear from some of our paraprofessionals about, hey, I think I might be getting that job as a teacher here and there. So you're going to start seeing some of these names come back in the personnel report. If you are curious and want to monitor and follow along with those personnel reports, when you get them, if they are a recall person, it will say recall under that reason or that action column, okay? So you'll know, oh, this person's being recalled. It's not a new hire, it's not an extraneous hire, it's someone that we're recalling. So again, it's unfortunate. They've done great jobs, all of these employees. We hope to get all of them back, and most likely will. So any questions from the board?
All right, if no questions, I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing honorable reduction in force of specific educational support personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by, and a roll call, please.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Stolkup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Hook.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The honorable reduction in force of special education support personnel is approved. The fifth item of new business is the approval of new adoption funding for the 2025-2026. Dr. Rowling, if you could provide more information.
Sure, I'm actually going to have Dr. Horn come to the podium. He'll be presenting a series of curriculum resource packages that are up for renewal, including one we spent quite a bit of time talking about this year at board meetings, K-5 math. So, Dr.
All right, good evening, everybody. So each year, the Department of Educational Services conducts a curriculum review process. We make every attempt to keep this as timely as possible. We cannot review all contents and all grade levels at the same time, so we do have a system that we go through and review that. This year, we have spent a significant amount of time reviewing K-5 math materials. We've also reviewed world language, which is primarily taught at the high school, but we do teach 7th and 8th grade sections of Spanish 1, so it's a middle and high school review. We also reviewed exploratories, and I've got some material for you for middle school level exploratories. In addition to this, we had some other curriculum needs that are being presented because of program expansion, and I'll get to that at a later point in time. So I'm going to walk you through, and I'm going to start with the largest and end with the smallest. So the largest adoption that is being put forward for recommendation for adoption tonight is the K-5 math material. We do follow a collaborative process when selecting the math material. So there was a team that was started back in September of this school year that contained 30 staff members representing the various levels, early elementary to late elementary, and the various elementary schools within the district. They identified 13 different samples from 13 different programs. Over the course of the school year, they piloted 4 programs. In February, we had a vendor showcase where 4 vendors selected by the team came out and presented the materials. From that, there were a top 2 that rose and were determined by the committee to be the ones to do a deeper investigation of. And then over the course of the next couple of months, the teams went back to their the schools they were representing, got some feedback, worked with the materials, worked with the samples, and the one that was selected by the committee is the Imagine Learning Platform. The reason why this was selected, they identified a variety of engagement techniques for group activities with students. There's a high level of student discussion and discourse within the materials, strong emphasis on number sense, and the top one, which we've heard loud and clear from the board, is that there was a high quality of family letters with home resources that contained QR codes to videos for each unit of studies for families to watch and learn from at home. There is currently planned a significant amount of professional development to get all of our teachers working with the same instructional tool on the same page, and a way to communicate that tool to our families. Now, I do want to be honest with you, this is a large ask for. It is a $703,200 total request. The total request that is being asked for tonight is just over $886,000. So the request for this math, that's 80% of the total request we're asking for this year. The value that is seen by the group of teachers looking at it, the needs that have been shown through the data that we've seen in where our students are scoring, the feedback that we've heard from our families, from the school board, and getting information to our families so they can help support students, we believe that this platform is going to be able to do what we are charged with doing for our students.
Well, and a piece of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Horn, is that we haven't really had a formalized curriculum at this grade level for this content for a long time. So in a way, we've kind of deferred those costs, which is why we're now paying them all at one lump sum.
We've had, so the nuance within definition, nuances within definition. So we've had proficiency tables with identified standards and several tools to get us there.
Right.
We have proficiency tables with identified standards and now a common tool collaboratively selected to help get us there. The curriculum is an evolves over time, right?
Sure.
And you're responsive to students' needs, you're responsive to the end goal. The next step here after this time next year, the goal of this district is to be presenting new plans for 612. And you've heard me speak about the shift to the ACT. So working backwards and making sure that the system is aligned to get all of our students ready as they progress through, that could pivot and change with time. So the curriculum can slightly adjust. Some of those tables may change, they may develop. The tool has enough resources that it allows flexibility for our teachers to do the work that they need to do to meet the students where they are, and is driven by the standards and by the research to get students there.
Yeah.
So yes and no, I guess?
Well, and I think the other thing to point out here is this purchase is for 6 years, correct?
That is correct.
And when you purchase something like this, you can either do the all-in or you stretch it out over all 6 years.
Right.
When you do that, it's more palatable up front, but it oftentimes costs us more over the life of the contract.
Sure.
So Dr. Bogan, Dr. Horn, they sat down with Dr. Mum. The three of them talked through what are the options, what do we believe the best financial sense makes, and so that's why you're seeing, this is for the next 6 years also.
Right.
This,
That's a good, better way to say it. Yeah.
I think it's also important that the board know in looking at this, we did site visits. We also asked for a list of surrounding districts and Chicago area districts utilizing it, just to name a few. Lake Forest District 67, Community Consolidated District 15 in Palatine, Wheaton Unit District 200, Elmhurst Community District 205, Schaumburg Community Consolidated District 54, and Winnetka School District 36, all currently using this. Many of those are excelling in many of the data points that we've been discussing throughout this past year.
And this comes complete with parental resources available
Correct.
for parental support of
Correct.
students at their home.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. Which
outside
will
of
make
the
available in terms both of tools that they can use and videos that they can watch.
As well, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
And supporting materials for teachers?
Absolutely. That was what the teachers responded to in both of them. And the top two had both of those resources. It was the critical thinking and number sense that really tipped this one over the edge for the teachers.
What's the timeline for implementation?
Well, pending board approval,
Yeah.
the materials will be made available for public display for the next 30 days. So anybody that would be interested would just simply contact my office. We'd get a sample for them to peruse. After the 30 days, if there's no strong objections, we would move forward and already have some preliminary dates, which pending board approval, for professional development in June.
With an implementation in the fall?
Correct.
Those districts that you mentioned, is there proven results from this curriculum? Have they said it has helped?
The districts that we have worked with have been, they're fans of it. So are there proven results? Many of these districts are high achieving districts. And is it directly because of this material? Potentially. What else could be a contributing factor? You know, that's really difficult to have a definitive statement to put on the record there. But the districts have resources that have been referenced here to go out and buy a number of different materials. The fact that they've continued with this and that it is as widely used as it is suggests that there's a high level of confidence in the material.
How long have some of the districts had it?
The Imagine Learning has been around for a number of years. It continues to grow and develop over time. This is a well-known platform in the industry. So, if I could go through and look for each one, but it would really depend on whenever they adopted them.
I'd just like to make the board aware. Dr. Bogan, if I could recall correctly, the curriculum budget was $400,000
Correct.
per
So
year.
that we used in 5-year financial projections, and that amount has slowly gone down over time.
Okay.
So I think 5 years ago it was like 600,000, and then slowly that budget has been cut. And I think one of the struggles for adopting new material has been that there hasn't been a budget there to support it. And so we worked really hard this year to think and work with, okay, what are the needs, and then how do we make that fit in the budget?
Yes.
So.
And thank you, Dr. Horn. I'm sure Imagine is a great program, but Ryan just did the numbers. I saw it on his phone. It's $117,000 a year over 6 years. If we're using over a quarter of our budget, our budget at this moment just for K-5 math, and we have everything else to do, how are we going to stay?
Yep. So
financially
the new adoption,
secure?
like they're not doing everything new all in 1 year, right? So the total amount is the $866,000 for new adoption this year. And then next year it would be something different. So I think one of the things that we're asking is that the board shifts these funds and puts more money into new adoption that has been previously. And while it is a large sum up front, it is a lower cost than splitting it over the 6 years, because if you split it over the 6 years, you're not just paying the $117,000, there's a premium to pay for
No, I
that.
know. I fully understand that we
I
should
would
pay
need
it
to
up
check
front.
on the actual quote that they gave us.
Yeah, and so every year we will have a new adoption budget.
Yes.
So,
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that it is a 6-year contract, so if you split it up, it's $117,000 a year, and that's a lot. That's a lot of money that we've been very careful in other places, but that's a lot of money to spend on just a K-5, which I get. That's probably the most important besides K-5 reading curriculum to have, but it just seems. What were the other curriculum?
iReady was the other one that came in for. I guess the question is the price or the companies. Price. So the top two were roughly about the same price.
Okay.
So typically speaking, and when we surveyed the Kane County Learning Leaders Network, which our office is part of, and that constitutes everybody that has a comparable position, such as myself, meets on a monthly basis at the ROE. $800,000 was about the going rate for a math adoption.
Okay, sounds good. I just want to make sure that we're.
Yeah, I think this is a really good point, Evan. But I think, as Dr. Bogan has said, for years we continue to cut out of this budget, right, to try to make ends meet, and I think we're now seeing the impacts of that, right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
So $886,000 for this year, or for next year, FY 26.
We're budgeting for it, it's planned for.
Yeah, it is in the budget for this much.
Yes.
Okay. And do we?
I originally had it in for 1 million, and then when the quotes came in, we updated it to this amount.
Okay, so previous budgets were about 400 to 500,000.
Correct.
That's what you brought up. We actually budgeted for this this amount
Correct. This
into
is
our
in,
current
this,
budget.
as we're building the budget right now, tentative budget.
Yeah.
I have this
Okay,
dollar
okay.
amount so that it is accounted for.
All right, I misunderstood. I thought the current budget had 400,000.
That's what I
Now we're
was-
No,
shooting
that was
under
in
the
projection.
This is
I
next year's money.
apologize.
Yeah.
Oh, this is next
Yeah,
year's.
we're spending next year's money.
So, okay, so if we're doing 886 this year, is the idea that it's probably gonna be similar next year for the next new adoption?
Yeah, yeah. Especially with a 612 math
Yeah.
and then a K-12 writing focus. Again, wanting to make sure that we are paying and getting the most bang for our buck. That we have had conversations about the $1 million, trying to keep it as close to 800,000 as possible. And one of the things that has complicated the financing of going out and purchasing materials is we split things, and you'll see there's about $60,000 of dollars that already owed because we're paying next year out of this year. So there's been some split financing that's happened, that when you go to make a purchase as large as this, when you have $400,000 because you're kind of in the hole a little bit because you've spread it out over 2 or 3 years, to Dr. Rolling's point, it just complicates things and makes it so that you are not as able to get as much of materials for your students as you would think you would be able to.
Any other discussion, questions?
Is the 886 or 800,000 going forward gonna be the right number, or are we gonna need something more to project in this budget line next year?
That's a great question. So based on new adoption for this one line, this is what we are budgeting for. And based on what we know today, there isn't something new. If there was something additional that we needed, that's where I think Dr. Horn and I would have the conversation, be like, can we budget for this in the following year? Is that something for next year's budget? But as part of their review cycle, Dr. Horn and Dr. Mum sat out and went through, okay, if we were going to go through this and update our curriculum based on that revised schedule, they've already projected out quite a few years already what the anticipated cost would be for each of these.
Working with the $1 million number that was given to us, trying to keep it as close to 800 as possible. Again, those are projections. We don't know what future costs will be, but similar to the process that we followed, it'd be conversations and being as responsible as we can, knowing that when you're cutting corners, it does have a impact on the students.
Sure.
So that would just be for further conversation.
44 grand for shipping?
I saw that.
We did look into purchasing it.
We did.
We did. We're not even kidding.
We put in with large margin.
We did talk about that, like, do we rent a truck? Where do we need to go to pick this up? I will get my CDL. I mean, we really did look at what other ways can we do that.
So no.
In the end, we could not find a
Yeah.
suitable way to do it.
But that's also shipping of materials and consumables over 6 years too, so.
Oh, okay.
You gotta think
I
about
don't want to drive a truck that many times.
Correct. It was one time.
One time. I'll do it for half, no problem.
Any other questions? All right, at this time, I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Education,
There are a couple other ones.
I'm sorry.
He's still going on 912 World Language.
Okay.
The 700,000 is the big one. That's
That is a big one. So the next group is world language, and the focus was on 912, but like I said, we do have middle school that is offering Spanish currently. It is currently as an exploratory. I'm using a lot of currently as in anticipation. Starting school year 2028, all incoming freshmen at any high school in the state of Illinois will have to enroll in and pass 2 credits of a world language. So we want to be forward thinking on this and make sure that we have the right resources and materials for our students. There is right now discussion about what it would look like to have students with the opportunity to earn a high school credit at the middle school level for Spanish. The way it's set up now, many students taking Spanish 1 go right into Spanish 2 their freshman year. They don't earn credit for it because it's just an exploratory. We don't have a system. That's a recommendation for a different time that would be put before the board. Following the sequence of how we do that, that's done during the course book recommendation, that happens in the fall. Just want that in the back of your mind so you kind of understand the lens and how we're viewing things, because it was really important for us to find a proper scope and sequence so that our middle schoolers would not only be get the material necessary to learn the language, but to have the right material if down the line they were going to potentially earn credit. So we're making this purchase with that thought at the forefront there. It is a little bit different in the process and how you work when you get into high school or even in middle school. At elementary school, you're working with elementary teachers, grade spans, multiple attendance centers. Some teachers, math is their forte, really strong at it. Others teach math, but reading is maybe their forte. When you get to high school, you're dealing with content experts and you're dealing with departments. So these were high school, there was a high school department chair, administration, instructional coach, as well as a representation from the middle school that reviewed the materials. We had 3 different vendors come out and showcase to us. At that point, it consisted of the entire department, both at the high school as well as at the middle school. Carnegie Learning for both Spanish and French was the front runner. There were a variety of materials that the teachers reported to be something they saw as engaging for students. They saw it as student-centered. Lots of references to being ample amount of teacher resources in differentiating the types of needs for all students. And keep in mind, when you're studying a language, it's about reading, it's about writing, it's about speaking, it's about cultural experience within the cultures of the language that they are studying. One of the things, just kind of on a side, that I thought was kind of cool is that there's AI-generated simulated live chats for our students to engage in with this material. It's a 6-year subscription. They are on a 6-year rotation with their materials. They did some revision of how their standards are lined out just to better fit what they've seen the needs. At the high school level, we do offer advanced placement as that capstone. This is not part of it. Advanced placement is run through the College Board. These are our classes, Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3, that would get students ready for advanced placement, in addition to teaching students to speak Spanish and French, which is important in and of itself, but will fit the need that our teachers have to get our students ready for that crucial 2 years of a world language study. It is less expensive because it is a smaller need. We're not dealing with the entire elementary population of Kaneland. We're dealing with our anticipated enrollment of 9th, 10th, 11th, 7th, and 8th, brings the total to $96,737, and that is for a 6-year subscription, along with classroom sets and other materials.
Dr. Horn, can I ask, and I don't mean this to be offensive, so people watching at home, I'm not saying we should cut things, but why French, right? Like, I get Spanish, but French?
It is typical for a school of Kaneland size to offer 2 different languages.
Sure.
French is a popular language. It has grown in popularity just in the years that I've been back at Kaneland.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for students. It is major European language.
It's also widely spoken in West Africa, which is one of the fastest growing populations in the world.
Yeah, but Mandarin's pretty big. I don't know if you've heard. Right?
It's really hard. It is. It's a great point, but it's really hard to find Mandarin.
Yeah, and I wonder if that was the real choice, right?
It's hard to build that program from
scratch,
and
Sure.
it's hard to hire people that
speak
that are qualified to teach it.
and it's no shade on the French teachers, and French teachers are amazing. I'm glad we have them. So please don't go home like Aaron hates French. I don't hate French. I have often wondered, and this is my first time I brought this up, and probably the first time for a lot of you to hear me say this, but I've often wondered why we have chosen the language we choose to teach our students, especially if we are talking about integrating in the world and being global leaders and all these things, there are definitely other languages that may be a bigger need. So would it be worth exploring? I know Mandarin's hard to find, but there's got to be someone.
I think we could explore options.
Yeah.
For
I didn't mean to throw a monkey
No,
wrench
I
at
think
you.
that I think we.
I'm not gonna disagree. I think it would be fantastic. But I also like opportunities for our students. I also think German is a major language that with lots of industry. We've got Aldi right down the road.
Sure.
Opportunities there. It's staffing, students require. So if that is something we want to look at, we can look at that. Yes.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not here to cut the French teachers. That's not my job, not my goal, right? But I was just saying, it does seem like we could maybe explore another language. Okay, I'm done talking.
Other questions?
That's fine. I'll talk again, I'm sure.
All right, third up is the 6-8 Exploratory. Exploratory is at the middle school. It's not for credit. It's to gain kids access and experience. They needed a refresher on many of the items that they already had. We're not offering, at this point, new classes for students, but our music needed additional material, different workbooks, subscriptions for our industrial arts, and as well as for our art, came to a total of just over $12,000.
And that's just an outright purchase, not a subscription?
Subscription for 6 years for the art and the white box, the guitar book, the piano adventures, and the accelerated pianos. That's a one-time purchase. Okay, fourth item is because of our growth, particularly at the high school with our language learners, we have had on the books for a number of years an English as a second language, or what we refer to as ESL, both 1 and 2. That is a credit-bearing class. We do have a teacher for that who was hired mid-year and came in and has been working with materials that we've been gathering for him, but he does not have a formal tool. We did work with our coordinator, as well as building administration, instructional coach, and with teachers themselves, and identified the Engage platform for a total of $5,286 as the preferred tools. Lots of ways to individualize assessments, appropriate Lexile levels, and cross-curricular connections for our language learning students. Okay, next one is actually exciting to me because I like to see us expand in this area, Kaneland. College Accounting is also a book that we've had on our records for a number of years. Students enrolling in this at Kaneland have the opportunity for articulated credit with Waubonsee Community College. This class has enough students to justify staffing it and enrolling it. We do not have the textbook necessary to give them the articulated credit. So working through Waubonsee is how we identified that book, and it is smaller in comparison to the other. It's just $2,054, and that is for the bundle over the course of 6 years. Okay, and the last new item, entrepreneurship, is a class that has been running. It is growing in popularity, I believe in part because of the conversations that are happening with our teachers, with our counselors, about pathways for students, about college and career exploration. We worked with the teacher. Keep in mind, when you get this specific, we're not dealing with departments, especially in career and tech ed. You're usually dealing with a teacher who's part of a department, to identify a tool, because he has not had one for a number of years, So this is the identified tools from McGraw-Hill, the entrepreneurship. That is a hard copy textbook. So there's shipping costs there. It's not quite as expensive as the last one. $2,619 is what is being requested. Okay, and the last item, and this is something that we spoke to earlier, Discovery, Mystery Science, McGraw-Hill Impact Social Studies, and iReady for a total of $64,000. Those are items that have already been approved. It's just money that we had stretched out over a 2-year span of time. We're looking for the opportunity to clean up the books so that when we move forward with our 6-12 math review as well as our K-12 writing review, we're at a clean start. So the total recommended funding for everything that I've mentioned this evening is $886,058.07. Can I answer any questions?
The number is different. Total recommendation than in the recommendation.
Oh, yeah.
What is a typo?
Saving $600.
$600. Right. Any other questions, comments? All right, I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Education approve the revised written curriculum and proposed plan for the $886,058.07. Expenditures to support the revised K-5 math, 9-12 world language curriculum, 6-8 exploratories, ESL 1 and 2, college accounting, and entrepreneurship.
So moved.
And a roll call, please.
Dr. Lawler.
Abstain. Labonzi.
Aye.
Mr. Stallcup.
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
You gotta stop some
Motion carries 6-0-1. The sixth item of new business is the presentation of the student handbook for his reading. Dr. Rowling, if you could provide more information.
So this is an annual process. I'm going to also hand this one off to Dr. Horn, who has some of our esteemed building administrators to help him out.
Okay, so thank you. Each year we come forward with our student handbook updates. We do lean heavily on the Illinois Principals Association Model Student Handbook that is used by the vast majority of schools within the state of Illinois. It is thoroughly vetted by their legal firm, as well as they've got representation within the legislative component of Springfield, and then also taking into any updates from press. I have with me my esteemed colleagues who did the lion's share of the work here in updating the handbook to reflect the changes in school code and state policy. So I'm going to hand it over to them at this point.
Good evening. So like Dr. Horn said, the handbook committee composed of myself, Noe, Claire, and Sean. We spent a bulk of the time at the beginning of the calendar year focused on how we were going to update our student handbook so that it better reflected the state editions and the IPA model handbook. So the first one that I'm going to go ahead and discuss with you guys for your recommendation is we did go ahead and adjusted the Ignite location language to reflect the Ignite Personalized Learning Academy moving from KMAC and to Shields and now Harder. So that we want to make sure was accurate in our handbook. We also added clarification on our visitors policy. and it gave guidance about what visitors were expected to do, how they were expected to acknowledge themselves in our buildings, and also added language about removal of said visitors. And so that is to reflect the IPA model handbook. The next is the PUNS, which is the prioritization of urgency of need for services. It's a database that we went ahead and added into our student handbook so that students who would like to be registered to be included in that database. It's the first step in order to receive developmental disability services in Illinois. So we wanted to make sure that parents and students had access to that so that that was available for them. The next one is we wanted to include language that made sure to accommodate students who may be breastfeeding, and we wanted to make sure that that was included in our student handbook as well. Again, that's part of the IPA model handbook. We want to make sure we were in compliance with that. The next one is the graduation guidance for students with disabilities. So we included this in our handbook to provide clarity in terms of students who may have a disability and how they go about earning their diploma and the completion successfully of credit requirements for graduation. So we want to make sure that was clear in the student handbook as well.
Does that include deferral of graduation for those who would qualify for services through age 22?
So it's students working towards certificate of completion may continue to receive post-secondary services until the age of 22. Is that the answer to your question?
Yeah, or they can defer their diploma.
Yes.
Until, as opposed to like extension that some school districts have. Okay.
The next one is, yes. The next one is just updating our school bus safety rules. So we also got clarity with the transportation department on this as well. So we have updated those and made them a little bit more clear and a little bit more in line with what the state is recommending. So those are all listed in your packet and would be reflected in the updated handbook as well. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to one of my other colleagues who will go through the next portion of the proposed handbook. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, good evening. The next portion was an addition in regards to medication, and that's in alignment with the Illinois Department of Health because there have been questions throughout the year. So after speaking with our nurses amongst the buildings, this was a request, so we were in alignment with the Illinois Department of Health. The next thing is fever. Again, same thing, but we added a hyperlink to the CDC for guidance and making sure that we were all in alignment in regards to that. Along with general guidance for absences in regards to keeping students home due to health concerns, with more key points in there: attendance, returning to school, parent notification, and education and prevention, along with many links for the Illinois Department of Health and the CDC throughout. The next is targeted school violence prevention program, and that was a new addition to the handbook based on the IPA model student handbook update. And some verbiage changes in regards to student behavior, specifically under the corporal punishment guidance, and that was also guidance from the addition to handbook from the IPA model handbook, along with social probation. There was a change in regards to that. And then indoor recess, we had a change for temperature from 5 degrees to 10 degrees to reflect the state guidance. It feels like, let me be clear, it feels like from 5 to 10 degrees. And then more verbiage change in the prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment based on the IPA model student handbook. There was a new addition in the IPA model student handbook under discrimination and harassment on the basis of race, color, and national origin prohibited. So that was added within the handbook itself. And to finish it up, I will pass it on to my colleague.
Yeah, I had all the fun ones. Again, one of the other ones is the safety tip hotline. We've changed the verbiage to align with the gaggle. Gaggle is, for those that don't know, is our system that catches anything, flags anything on our network, anything that's attached to our domain gets flagged to any administration that's connected to the school or either of the SROs. They get all those, and then one of administration responds. A lot of times it's in the high school level, it's assignments, forensic science. A lot of times in health, during certain units, the teachers give us a heads up, hey, we're doing this unit, which helps us. We verify that the class was just prior usually, and then we're able to like say this was a assignment, especially if, again, we're seeing a lot of those happen right at the same time. So again, it just reflects that on that. And then again, additions, revisions for the student-based on the IPA model handbook was the addition was on the sex offender national notification law. Again, just the next steps of what we have to do to follow expectations in the student handbook. And then we revised just some of the verbiage of the LRC library. Again, just the language has kind of been revised. And then the appendix, other additions, again, the EC parent handbook, extracurriculum handbook, and code of conduct. We put a lot of hyperlinks in this only because when things change so fast, especially with CDH or IDPH, all these things are happening in real lifetime. The link will automatically revise instead of us having to change this consistently, because as laws and things change, we can at least, the nurses will keep up with that information and those facilities. But at the same time, we don't have to come back here and make an amendment to the handbook because it's just constantly changing, as we know. Any questions for any of us?
At what point do we see the actual language that was edited or revised?
You should have, did they receive this spreadsheet, do you know?
Maybe, can I,
Yeah.
am I allowed to hand that? I've got it.
Yeah, the language would go here. We can email you guys all this.
From the memo.
Yeah, from the memo.
I mean, we just got the basic memo with
Oh,
the
okay.
highlights. We don't-
Yeah.
With nothing attached.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
don't have any of the general, the actual specifics.
Then we'll send you this with the hyperlink of what we've been reading throughout the night, which is a spreadsheet of each
Okay.
verbiage. And then, again, most of our changes were all from the handbook model change predominantly this year.
And
So,
these have already been run through the CAC or those committees? Or is that not yet?
We spoke with them about feedback. We don't get their approval, we get their feedback with those things, and we did that January?
or end of, yeah, December to January. Yeah, so we'll get that link out to you guys tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
Thank you for your hard work.
All right. I will now entertain a motion that the Board of Education approves on first reading the student handbook that is aligned with early childhood through 12th grades to be implemented for the 2025-2026 school year.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Stallcup?
Aye.
Mr. Mankivsky?
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner?
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Cook?
Aye.
Mr. McCauley?
Aye.
Dr. Lawler?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The presentation of the student handbook is approved on first reading. It is now time for the superintendent and board report. Dr. Rowling, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, well, Mr. Rollman took some of my thunder early on, but we'll let that go, I guess. So I do want to, again, congratulate our Kaneland Crier participants that competed downstate this weekend. I do want to recognize holding the 52nd annual Peterson Prep Track Invite came home after a one-year trip to West Aurora. I was able to be out there for a good portion of the morning. It was a beautiful day. We recognized athletes from the 1975 state championship team and the 2014 state runner-up team. I just want to point out, after the recognition, I had some of the members of the 75 team asked for a tour of the high school. It was a really cool experience. Those gentlemen were responsible for multiple state championships won at the school, and their coach asked if he could see the physics room
figuring it would be very different than the one he retired from in 1981. It was a bit of a. It was not. So I promised him if he comes back in a few years, though, he'll see a whole new experience. So the Kaneland Community Arts Festival will be held this upcoming Sunday at Kaneland High School. The event kicks off at 11. And we're entering the month of May, which will see a variety of events and celebrating the many successes of the class of 2025. I want to encourage all of our seniors to enjoy these many culminating activities throughout the month. So pay attention, Ms. Slattery. We were talking about that earlier today. But graduation is set for Sunday, May 18th at 5 p.m. at the NIU Convocation Center. That's all I have for today.
All right, thank you. Dr. Bogan?
I do have one, just update. I wanted to update the board on mandated categoricals. Just regarding the current budget that we've seen from the governor's office and how it potentially could impact payments that the district receives. As many of you know, mandated categoricals, they're designed to reimburse school districts for specific programs, whether it's related to special ed or, in this case, transportation. One thing that has come out is that the governor's proposed budget right now for the upcoming fiscal year, it does include a focus on maintaining and in some cases increasing general education funding through evidence-based funding or the EBF model. But there is concern regarding mandated categoricals, and we have heard once again that it is anticipated that they will be prorated. So for transportation, for instance, if the program was fully funded and the district were to receive its full reimbursement, we would receive 80% of allowable expenditures from the state back in reimbursement. For many years, the state has prorated that, and so last year we did see significant prorations. And this year, again, we are anticipating additional prorations. Some have said maybe, lowering it by another 6%. So we don't have final numbers, but I do want to make the board aware of that. We are continuing to monitor it closely, and as we have updates, we'll share ongoing updates with the board and to the community on that. But it is an area to look at and that we are monitoring very closely. So, any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Bogan.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Slattery?
Try to keep some of the other things that were mentioned already short. But good evening. The varsity baseball team is currently on a 5-game winning streak and hope to continue that with their game today against Sycamore at home. They'll also be playing Sycamore away on Wednesday. The softball team also has a game today at LaSalle, Peru, and will play Ottawa at home on Wednesday. Kaneland High School will be hosting a blood drive on May 2nd. Students should sign up to donate during their homeroom and study hall periods. Their donations go directly to hospitals in our community, so by donating, you're directly helping your community. So go sign up for that. And then Crier competed at state last Friday, had 3 journalists place in their competitive category. Nate Sand in 6th, senior Nate Sand in 6th, junior Olivia Cotter in 5th, and then senior Sophie Thill in 4th. Relay for Life will be held at the high school on May 9th. Student Council's been working extremely hard to set the event up. The donations go to supporting cancer survivors where students walk the track and whatnot. Students, clubs, and athletic teams can sign up as a group to raise the money, where there'll be games, food, and just a bunch of fun night activities. And then finally, the boys track and field team held their annual Peterson Prep Meet at home this year. The Knights won the meet out of 18 teams. Some of these teams being Mequa Valley, East and West Aurora, Sycamore, DeKalb, Freeport, and a bunch more. And then just to show how big, we won with 117 points, and West Aurora came in second with only 79. So, and then that's all I have for tonight.
All right, thank you. Board members, anyone? Anyone at all? All right, are there any topics for future agenda that the board would like to discuss? I'd like to know where the curriculum is in process, and are we gonna be ready to post the curriculum online for parents, along with supporting resources, in time for the coming school year?
The math curriculum or just in general?
Curriculum general.
The
We haven't had anything.
The current curriculum is available online. It was labeled something else on the website. I can't remember what the actual label was. We changed that 2 weeks ago. That curriculum is being revised, so we will continue to post revisions as it is revised.
Any other?
Math, you said it was 30 days, right?
Well, it's a 30-day review period.
And then
And
by
then-
June.
The purchase will happen after July 1.
Okay.
Looking to get materials here as quickly as we can in July, and then disseminate it to the schools. But the goal is to get our teachers that would want access to it, because teachers do a lot of planning over the summer. Either it's just the codes to access it electronically.
And the team, now that we've made the determination as to which direction to go, the curriculum team is now aligning the existing standards and proficiency tables to the new curriculum materials. That'll be ongoing work. As we kind of hit the end of the year, we won't have it all completed going into the fall. We will have the whole first trimester done. And then as our staff returns again in September, we'll wrap all that up. It's hard to get teachers to come in during the summer oftentimes to do that kind of work. I totally get it. So the plan is to have at least the first trimester done before we release in May, and then hitting the ground running to wrap up the rest of that when we return. And that's something that we've been working really closely with our KEA partners on.
So maybe to piggyback off of Mr. Mankowski's idea, would it be useful to have like a quick, I would not want a lengthy one, a quick presentation of how to navigate the curriculum from the parent's point of view?
And how parents can
How
access, parents
yeah.
access to the curriculum,
Yeah.
and particularly for your students'
Right, your
level,
third grade
level,
right,
yeah, whatever it may be.
We can do that at one of the May meetings. We can have a review of where the documents are, how you find those. Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was gonna say this. Can our website be revamped?
Yeah, it's actually underway right now.
It's like, seriously.
It's underway. We will be,
Okay,
we're converting to a.
Because if you set the links up, nobody knows where to even go.
To find
yeah.
them.
I've heard more parents complain. I've looked at other websites, like, I was wondering if you could get that revamped by the referendum, or if it's already being under, but it needs to be
Yeah,
100%
so we are,
redone.
Absolutely.
The technology department and the communications department are working right now to transition to a new platform called Final Site. We've had our own hosted platform for a long time now. That's not really a manageable way of doing it, so we are moving to this new platform. As we do that, Mr. Chavez is working with TAC to get that done. He's also going to be sending out some communication surveys to the community to get feedback on how that can best be done. As we roll it out, we'll continue to work with our CAC and things like that to get feedback on how do we make this work better. I told him I'm probably his target audience, because if I have to click more than 3 times, I just quit. And so we are definitely working on making that more user-friendly, more intuitive.
What's like the time frame you're looking at?
What's the time frame on that?
So yeah, according to our technology department, we've got about another week or 2 in terms of converting everything over and all the files, and then from there we can start making some adjustments and changes to make it easier to navigate from there. So it's all happening pretty quickly.
Like, it's gonna be a totally new user face, user friendly. I mean, when parents go on, they're not even gonna recognize it, right? Like, user friendly, and it's gonna be totally different, or?
Yeah, well, I can't really speak to that yet. Right now, it's more the technology side of things right now. So, but yes, it is going to be a
couple weeks
revamped, changed, and yeah, within a couple weeks we'll have some major changes, and then from there we can still continue to modify it to make it more user friendly as we go on.
Awesome.
So I would imagine, there'll be an initial, in the next few weeks change, but then over the summer, that'll be an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And of course, we always seek feedback that, you know, if something's hard to find, if something's challenging, then we can look at that and see if there's a better way to format it.
Okay. I think as we move forward after the referendum passed, we should have some ongoing update on status, on schedule, on just, it doesn't have to be long, you know, here's a timeline, here's the next 2 weeks, next month, something like that, just showing that what's happening, where it's going, for everybody.
So the plan on that is for us to bring a once a month update on what we've accomplished and where we're headed. Additionally, our website will be converting we used to have a lot of information on whether we should have passed it or not. Now we'll be converting into a project website. So that'll be available, but we do plan to bring a once a month update to the board meeting.
Any other future topics? Topics for future agenda? All right, it is now time for the second round of public comments. And we have 3 people signed up. Jaden Shada? Correct me if I'm mispronouncing.
Nope, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So once again, I'd just like to talk about the Sugar Grove TIF. There is a necessity for the school board to file a lawsuit in order to empower the new village board to act on the TIF. I do believe that the new village board would be willing to work with you, but this legal action is critical and necessary due to the fact that Jennifer Konen and her board agreed to a reckless annexation agreement with Crown Development, limiting the village's options in the future. Thankfully, we will soon have a responsible village board. However, had Konen been reelected and no legal challenge has been made, the precedent that she set that all farmland within municipalities, which Kaneland happens to have a lot of, could and should be placed into TIF districts, would remain unchallenged. And you would see these TIFs devastating financial consequences for the district. If unchallenged, it could set a legal precedent that you'd allow more illegitimate TIF development within the school district, ultimately leading to a financial crisis. By filing suit and succeeding against the TIF, you would overturn that dangerous precedent set by Jennifer Konen. In your prior budgets, it stated that 3 TIFs have caused a negative financial impact on the district. 2 of those TIFs were in Sugar Grove. The projections on those TIFs at their inception were never realized, and the studies declared they would not have a negative impact. Yet your true financial experience does show that they were in fact detrimental. Those TIFs were a tiny fraction compared to what is being proposed with or approved with the Crown Development. It is unfortunate that this burden falls on you, but it is essential. I'll leave you with this for the questions about how are we going to fund this potential lawsuit. The village recently surplused about $1 million in TIF funds. Given that Kaneland receives approximately 65 to 70% of tax revenue, you likely received between $650,000 and $700,000. If you haven't already budgeted for that as a guaranteed income, since the surplus is never certain, that $650,000 to $700,000 could and should be used to fund a potential lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Carolyn Anderson. She left. Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Sheila Albano.
Sheila Albano from Elburn. You guys have had kind of a long and rough night, so I thought I'd try to give you a positive way to go out of here. But I'm going to start with the fact that French is the national business language of the rest of the world. So
the anti-French guy.
it's and I know that because my husband travels a lot, and that is the language that gets used throughout Africa and a number of other places. Not so much in Chicago because we have Spanish, obviously, but that's actually much smaller population of people who use that language. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. I didn't even know what to put on that thing. Yes, it was an amazing day on Saturday for all of us to get to be on the track again with that many kids, 18 teams, a lot of kids running around. Our admin was spectacular. our Maggie, who you should never, ever, ever let go of, is amazing. And to have introduce the people who graduated from here in the past, they asked me if they could have a tour, maybe, or could get into the building, and I turned literally right around and handed them off to Dr. Rollwing and said, "This is the guy." So and I saw Edmund there. I didn't even recognize him. Like, I didn't know who he was, because he's like, I'm Edmund Cook, and I'm like, oh my God. It is so wonderful when any of you show up at any event. It doesn't have to be sports, the theater or a choir event or anything. I know from a number of years of experience that was not a normal thing. So when you do it, it is very impactful to the people involved, even if it's only for a short while. So I just want to say thank you for both of you coming on Saturday. And as you move forward with all these really difficult stuff, and your decisions are continue to be awful, go out and look at that track. And remember how difficult all of that was for all of us as well, and take heart in it, because we had coaches all day long going, it feels great to be back here again, and wow. And I look forward to what we get to do with referendum money to do the same thing, so that in the classrooms and the other programs, people will become, and in the physics room, people will be coming in and going, wow. So keep that in mind as you have to do all the heavy stuff. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, the Board of Education is scheduled for a close.
For any more public comment, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we had to sign up.
She hasn't done sign-ups here before for that.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry about that. This is my first time I've spoken at a board meeting, so I'm kind of new to that. But again, Katie Wood, Sugar Grove. So I also wanted to speak a second time just on the TIF. You know, your own attorney had said this could be a pox on everybody's house. And I think that's really powerful coming from him. I really just want one last time to encourage you to make a decision based on the facts in front of you rather than the speculation. I hear a lot of speculation about how much the TIF might bring in, how much development without a TIF, if it were to happen, would bring in. But that to me doesn't outweigh the facts of we don't have the money. We've made some really deep, painful cuts. It's clear now that we're also facing an ISBE shortfall for those mandated categorical payments. I know you believe you have a strong case. I think it's important to note Sugar Grove also believes they have a strong case. And again, the attorney said the experts would be the ones to duke it out in court. The experts aren't in this room. You know, I'm not going to pretend like I'm the expert on it. But it's not a sure thing. So I guess to the question about transparency, it's important for me to know, if it fails, what's going to be cut. That, to me, as a parent in the district, is my number one concern. So that said, I guess I just wanted to end on one last piece. Mr. McKinsky, sorry. I want to congratulate you on your new role as the board president. You know, you are the new leader and the model for the professionalism of the board. And so to that end, I also want to offer just some encouragement to be really mindful of, you know, how you model the communication. These are sensitive issues that impact a lot of stakeholders in the district. And at times, at least I have felt that your words and body language have sometimes conveyed some contempt for Sugar Grove, which I do think risks alienating one of the municipalities. So that said, again, I just encourage you to vote based on student outcomes, financial health of the district, and just how you can be responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Anyone else? The Board of Education is scheduled for a closed session to discuss Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2, subsection C, subsection 11, and 2 subsection C subsection 1, where there will be no action taken following the session. Therefore, after the vote to go into closed session, the recording of tonight's meeting will be concluded. I will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss Illinois Open Meetings Act, sub 2, sub C, sub 11, and 2, sub C, sub 1 at 8:30 p.m. I'm sorry, 9:30 p.m.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor? Oh.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mr. Mankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kleisner.
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. McCauley.
Aye.
Dr. Lawler.
Aye.
Mr. Stolka.
Aye.
The aye, 7 ayes, 0 nays. We will go into closed session. It is now
Okay, that's you.
Congratulations.